Volume 9, Golden Iron Triangle, Chapter 57, Fiend Team. Meng Li had considered leaving Silver's City and going to another great spirit arena. After all, without the income from spirit fights, whether his team or he himself, all relied on the reward money for their luxurious lifestyle, and weren't willing to suffer restrictions. Thus, they hadn't joined any power. However, an hour ago Meng Li suddenly received news from the Great Spirit Arena. Unexpectedly there was a team that wanted to challenge them, and furthermore it was a level-surpassing challenge. This news made Meng Li ecstatic. No matter that he wasn't a cautious person, even a cautious spirit master absolutely wouldn't believe a 30th level team was able to defeat a 40th level team. Were it not for spirit fighter spirit masters not being allowed to gamble on their own matches, he'd definitely bet heavily on his team. Meng Li had already convened all the members on his side, as quickly as possible hurrying to the Great Spirit Arena, coming to collect the income for their first fight in half a month. Besides income, there was still venting. Killing people, especially killing spirit masters, to him and these mad dog-like team members, was in itself a kind of unburdening and pleasure. Were it not for them always living within the area of influence of the Great Spirit Arena, perhaps they already would have been killed by more powerful spirit masters any number of times. Meng Li's motto was, growth through slaughter. This year he was 30 years old. He had even thought out his later title, Douluo title, Fiend. Of course, he also knew himself well enough to realize that becoming titled Douluo in this lifetime was practically impossible. Only if he had some special luck, like perhaps obtaining an excellent spirit bone or a 10,000-year spirit ring to alter his physique. Silver's Great Spirit Arena, Central Main Spirit Arena. Today was especially bustling, although the news had just spread a couple of hours ago. A spirit fight like this level-surpassing challenge still attracted the interest of a large amount of high-level spectators. Especially when the target of this level-surpassing challenge was the Fiend team, well known for its savagery. The Great Spirit Arena's specialized betting areas were already open. Both sides' spirit power level was obvious at a glance, so the odds also had extreme disparity. Fiend team was only 1-1, while Shrek 7 Devils team reached 1-10. Of course, the Great Spirit Arena wouldn't suffer any losses, no need to speak of the losers. The winners would have to pay a 10% processing fee. This was also a significant reason why Great Spirit Arena would sometimes organize marvelous spirit fighting competitions. The higher the stakes, the higher their cut. This was since long ago the main source of revenue for any Great Spirit Arena, even more than ticket prices. Very soon the odds changed. As a result of too many betting on the Fiend team, the odds shifted accordingly. Shrek 7 Devils team's side already offered 1-17, and the odds were constantly rising. On the two betting sides, the line before Fiend team's betting point was filled with spectators, fearing they wouldn't be able to place their bets before the spirit fight began. But Shrek 7 Devils' side was completely deserted. Besides some speculative bettors, practically nobody paid attention. At this moment, a suddenly appearing voice roused the Shrek 7 Devils team betting point staff member from their drowsiness. I want 30,000 gold spirit coins, Shrek 7 Devils team. You said what? How much? The staff member jumped, hastily questioning closer. Flender frowned. I said 30,000 gold spirit coins, Shrek 7 Devils victory. All right, the staff member swallowed. Although Silver's Great Spirit Arena was the largest spirit arena in Silver's kingdom, bets as high as 30,000 gold spirit coins were still extremely rare. Flender's 30,000 gold coins naturally weren't all his own. Among them were still the Shrek 7 Devils, Grandmasters, as well as the other several teachers' secret stashes. The bettors in the Fiend team line were already laughing loudly, looking at Flender with gazes like looking at an idiot. You're sure? The staff member once again asked. Flender's face remained unchanged. I'm sure. Deposit in cards. While speaking, he took out several gold coin transfer cards, using them for his bet. Right now he was trying his utmost not to smile. He didn't want the odds to drop due to someone following his example. Of course, his fears were completely groundless. At this time, who would be optimistic about Shrek 7 Devils' chances? Great Spirit Arena admittedly had numerous methods to make money, but there was one point everyone believed in: their impartiality and fairness. Otherwise, Great Spirit Arenas wouldn't have so many spectators anywhere. The Spirit Fighter level gap truly was big. On Shrek 7 Devil's side, there were only 4 above 30th rank. Besides one 38th ranker, the next highest members were just 33rd rank, and even 32nd rank Spirit Masters. The Fiend team's side, by contrast, were all above 40th rank Silver Spirit Fighters. Although in the 40th level tier their ranks weren't considered too high, their average only 43rd rank. When dealing with Shrek 7 Devil's team, their superiority was immense. With 1.5 more Spirit Rings on average, adding the Spirit Power advantage and Fiend team's berserk fighting methods, who would be optimistic about Shrek 7 Devils at this time? Flender was also exploiting a Great Spirit Arena loophole. Although participating Spirit Masters couldn't bet directly, Great Spirit Arena naturally wouldn't look into whether he represented Shrek 7 Devils. When Flender prepared to turn and leave, he suddenly saw a man with the appearance of a chubby merchant quickly step forward, seemingly extremely nervous to let something slip by. Handing over a gold spirit coin transfer card, gasping for breath, he spoke to the staff member. Give me 10,000 gold spirit coins on Shrek 7 Devils. The staff member thought to himself that strange occurrences happened every year, but this year they were especially common. A spirit fight with such a clear outcome, unexpectedly still had so many people coming to hand over their money. Having learned from his lessons with Flender, he didn't again ask anything, but quickly handled the procedures. This time it was Flender's turn to be baffled, asking the fatty, "My friend, haven't you made a mistake? The difference in spirit power and spirit rings is so large between Shrek 7 Devils and the opponent, and you still bet on them." The fatty grinned, keeping his voice low. "You don't know about this. I'm a merchant, doing business between Black Kingdom and Silver's Kingdom. Not long ago I was in Black Kingdom's Suotuo City, just in time to see an extremely marvelous team spirit fight. One of the leading roles was the Shrek 7 Devils. They absolutely mustn't be underestimated because of their spirits. Friend, if you believe me, follow my lead, you'll absolutely earn money. So it's like this. I believe you." Although Flender's mouth said this, inwardly he was laughing somewhat. He hadn't expected to come across a fan of the little monsters in silvers. However, this supporter also seemed a bit too ignorant. Were it not for having those special reasons, even if the little monsters' spirits were even more outstanding, how might they still prevail over opponents a level higher? Even though this side invested 40,000 gold spirit coins in bets, the odds showed no tendency of dropping. Instead, the rising trend continued. So as to equalize the bets between the two sides, the Great Spirit Arena had no choice but to drop the odds for Fiend Team to 0.7. Despite this, the bettors still didn't slow down. As Flender calmly and leisurely walked back to the Great Spirit Arena, the Shrek 7 Devils had already done their preparations for the fight, and as the betting points outside stopped accepting bets, as time passed, Silver's Great Spirit Arena's last team spirit fight for the day, the level-surpassing challenge, would begin. Grandmaster as usual delivered the Shrek 7 Devils to the main Spirit Arena's Spirit Fighter team entrance, finally warning him yet again. "Remember, your opponents are cruel and savage. No need to hold back. Use the fastest way to settle it. Understand, if something unexpected happens, immediately leave the ring, concede rather than suffer any harm." Tang San nodded to Grandmaster, saying, "Teacher, don't worry, we won't lose." Guided by a staff member, the group walked into the main Spirit Arena ring with large strides. Since this time they weren't invited by the Great Spirit Arena, the team leaders couldn't enter the arena like last time at Suotuo Great Spirit Arena to wait at the entrance. Grandmaster could only quickly leave, meeting up with Flender's group to watch this spirit fight from the stands. The reason Grandmaster dared let the Shrek 7 Devils issue this challenge was entirely founded on careful calculations. Tang San hadn't concealed his hidden weapons from Grandmaster, and Grandmaster had long ago calculated how much threat each of his hidden weapons could bring to bear against various ranked Spirit Master. Right now, regarding this team spirit fight, Grandmaster believed that as long as there were no extreme peculiarities, it wouldn't be any problem. At times, strength didn't mean victory. Silver's Great Spirit Arena's central main spirit arena didn't have any major differences from Suotuo Great Spirit Arena, only its scale being a bit bigger, but the surrounding construction style was nevertheless exactly the same. From this it could be seen it was a perfect setup for the Great Spirit Arena. Perhaps it was because Tang San's people's opponents were excessively savage, but as the announcer declared both sides entering, he was already flying in the air. Unfortunately, this announcer wasn't as visually attractive as Suotuo Great Spirit Arena's beautiful Daodu, rather a handsome youth. The Shrek 7 Devils glanced at their opponents. Although the battle hadn't yet started, the opponent's vicious spirit already assaulted them. The Shrek 7 Devils didn't know how many members Fiend Team had, but the 7 people on stage were clearly their strongest 7, also the 7 they previously received information about. The captain was Berserk Giant Bear Spirit Master Meng Li, the other 6 were also all Battle Spirit Masters. This vicious team was unexpectedly composed entirely of Power Attack System Spirit Masters. This was also a major reason for their astonishing attack power. As a Power Attack System team, their advantages and disadvantages were extremely clear, and their advantage was naturally to in a moment erupt in peerlessly tyrannical attack power. Their weak points were even simpler, since they didn't have Auxiliary System Spirit Masters, Agility Attack System Spirit Masters or Control System Spirit Masters. Their capability for sustained battle was extremely lacking. Fiend Team's 7 members all appeared to be men around 30 or so, each and everyone built tall and sturdy, a bloodthirsty light in their eyes. While walking towards the center of the spirit fighting stage, they kneaded their fists, the bones making popping noises that caused people's teeth to ache. At least in imposing manner, this team before them could be said to be the strongest Shrek 7 Devils had met. The Fiend Team's 7 members all had a bloodthirsty atmosphere, in no way comparable to Emperor Team. This was the atmosphere that arose from constant slaughter. Further looking at the bloodthirsty light in their eyes, it seemed one could even smell the reek of blood from their bodies. Due to the special composition, Fiend Team's formation was also wildly different from other teams. The 7 lined up in a row, crowded together. At the announcer's preparatory call, they simultaneously released their spirits. As a result of all of them being Power Attack System Spirit Masters, these 7 beast spirit savages' bodies practically all swelled up as they released their spirits. For a moment it was as if a giant bloody maw rose up over them, able to swallow everything. The Fiend Team was able to suppress so many Spirit Masters. How could their unrestrained reputation be fabricated? Perhaps it was because they felt the savage atmosphere released by the Fiend Team. The spectators hidden in the VIP lounges all began to cheer, transmitted by amplifiers into the arena. Tear them to pieces. Kill them. The countless calls made the Fiend Team's savage flame burn even stronger. In the enthusiastic atmosphere, what the spectators didn't notice was how Shrek 7 Devils, with a full allocation of Spirit Master types, assumed a very strange formation, precisely the same as the opposing Fiend Teams, one line, and simultaneously released their spirits. Oscar asked Dai Mabai in a low voice, "Boss Dai, if they really rush us, can't you block them with Rongrong's spirit ability assistance?" Dai Mabai practically without the slightest hesitation replied, "I can't." Your head, don't you have faith in Little San's treasures?" Co Wu snapped. Oscar grinned, "It's not that I don't have faith, this is just in case of emergency." Thinking I, the great youth, handsome and elegant, distinguished and casual, jade tree facing the wind. "All right, everyone prepare." Tang San's timely voice interrupted Oscar. The Shrek 7 Devils flicked their wrists simultaneously. Each took out an approximately 1 chi long, appearing entirely unremarkable black box from their spirit tools or perhaps within their chests, pointing the end of the black box towards their opponents. Perhaps it was because the Fiend Team's sins were indeed too many, The calls from all around made their vicious nature even greater, each and every one facing upwards and snarling, beating their chests, showing off their spirit rings to the audience. Basically without paying any attention to the small motions of the Shrek 7 devils. The Great Spirit Arena didn't ban the use of weapons, only generally speaking, weapons were just a nuisance to spirit masters, and very few used them. Grandmaster and Flender's group all attentively gazed at the outside from within a VIP lounge. Flender's spirit was Owl, and although he wore glasses, his vision was in fact the best among them, and the small motions of Tang San's group taking out the godly Zhuge crossbows were caught in his eyes. Flender was still somewhat anxious about this spirit fight, and couldn't help ask Grandmaster at his side, Xiaogang, are those hidden weapon things of Tang San's really capable of striking down these 40th level spirit masters? Those are all power attack system. The defensive capability among spirit master systems are second only to defensive system. Are their spirit abilities still unable to block Tang San's hidden weapons? Grandmaster calmly said, they can block. What was that? Flender immediately stared wide-eyed, looking at Grandmaster. To his calm he couldn't help but show a panicked expression. Grandmaster said, Tang San also gave me a godly Zhuge crossbow for my protection, and I carefully researched its firepower. Generally speaking, even if a power attack system spirit master's first two kinds of spirit abilities are defensive, they certainly can't block its attack. But as long as it's a third spirit ability or higher, they can neutralize it. If it's a fourth spirit ability, it's even less of a question. You still let them fight. Don't tell me you sent him to their deaths. Flender was clearly too loud. Along with his anger, his spirit power worked automatically, and the whole room trembled under his voice. Grandmaster looked at Flender, not the slightest bit moved. Still using his usual voice. What if they can block? That doesn't influence Tang San's group's victory. Originally I still thought they might have to use all their hidden weapons to win, but looking at it now, apparently that won't be necessary. Tang San talked to me about it. Hidden weapons are hidden weapons. The key word is hidden. You think the opponents can know how powerful the hidden weapons in their hands are? If it was you, facing an opponent whose strength clearly was inferior to yours, would you from the start use a third or fourth spirit ability that requires the consumption of a great amount of spirit power? Of course, this way of fighting can't be reused, but don't forget that this is also the first time Tang San's hidden weapons emerge in a great spirit arena. With the use of only the first or perhaps the second spirit ability, for a body with spirit power below 50th rank, it's basically impossible to resist the godly Zhuge crossbows. Even if it was beyond 50th rank, speaking somewhat generally, perhaps they would still suffer. Do you think the man-faced demon spider was so easy to kill? Listening to Grandmaster, Flender's mood gradually calmed, but his heart was still worried. At this moment, in his heart, the money he had bet wasn't of any importance. His only wish was for the Shrek 7 devils not to suffer any harm. These children could be called his favorites, no different from his own children. Right then, the already flying announcer shouted loudly, Team Spirit Fight, Shrek 7 Devils Team, Level Surpassing Challenge vs Fiend Team, begin. Practically the moment the last syllable left the announcer's mouth, on the both sides one person also shouted loudly. The voice on Fiend Team's side was naturally the captain, Berserk Giant Bear Spirit Master Meng Li, shouting, Tear them to shreds. On the Shrek 7 Devils the one to shout loudly was Tang San. A lot more succinct, he shouted only one word, loose. The long ago raised black boxes didn't reflect any light even under the brilliant illumination of the Great Spirit Arena. The moment the Fiend team charged, all team members already launched their first spirit ability. Pouncing like wolves and tigers. That sound with the weight of thunder was like 10,000 horses charging. At this moment, all the Fiend team members heard a strange sound, like metal clashing, further accompanied by a buzzing sound, as if poking a hornet's nest. Buzz, 7 godly Zhuge crossbows simultaneously issued what could be called their snarl. Each godly Zhuge crossbow had already been armed before this spirit fight. Altogether 112 crossbow bolts pierced the air, a great cloud of arrows like dancing wasps. The Fiend Team's members were all spirit masters over 40th rank. They were naturally able to see those oncoming shadows, but how could they imagine that wasn't a spirit ability? With the Mad Dog strategy, however strong the enemy's attack, all would attack as if their lives depended on it. Today the Fiend Team was still like this. They basically didn't break off at all because of the opponent's attack, rather increasing their charging speed even more, raising their arms to guard the vitals of their heads and chests, inflexibly dashing forward to close-quarters combat where they were always the most skilled. Along with a series of strange sounds, it was as if the madly shouting audience simultaneously had their throats cut. In that moment not a sound could be heard. In that terrible silence, great puffs of blood mist blossomed like fireworks in the main spirit arena. The Fiend Team members still dashed ahead several meters with powerful momentum, and in an eye blink, it was already too late for them to react. Why is it suddenly cold? Meng Li was somewhat baffled. His body didn't quite seem to listen to his commands. This was his last thought in this world. Ding ding ding. Concentrated cracks of sound appeared behind the Fiend Team. On the wall of the main spirit arena, pitch-black crossbow bolts were crowded together, nailed into the wall. The Fiend Team's members' steps also finally halted. Those explosions of blood mist were precisely from their bodies. Not just the audience was stupefied, even the Shrek 7 devils themselves were lifeless. Despite placing all their hopes in the godly Zhuge crossbow, as this moment truly arrived, they also stood there sluggishly. The only one that had anticipated the scene before them was Tang San, but right now even he couldn't stop the slight twitches at the corners of his eyes. Meng Li's eyes, originally with an ominous glint, stared deathly rigid ahead. The viciousness in those eyes had already become astonishment and despair. The tall and sturdy body, like a crumbling mountain or falling pillar, collapsed on the ground. The 7 Fiend Team members, practically at the same moment, were brought to the ground by their momentum. Blood, flowing out from the bodies that were like sieves after being struck by the godly Zhuge crossbows. The blood flowed like a long red earthworm, rapidly spreading over the spirit fighting ring. In the blink of an eye, it had already dyed the center of the main spirit arena red. Instant kill. Unexpectedly it was an instant kill. The more powerful 40th level Fiend Team unexpectedly didn't even have the chance to act. This moment, the minds of practically all the spectators were blank. Nobody knew what had happened. Even so much that only a few people had looked at how Shrek 7 devils did it. Such a short team spirit fight. In all the great spirit arenas history it was one of its kind. But although this spirit fight was brief, the impact it left on the audience wasn't less than any brilliant spirit fight. In the VIP lounge, Flender already stared wide-eyed from shock. Grandmaster slowly closed his eyes, calmly saying, "Let's go. Right now is the moment they need us the most." Saying this, he was the first to leave. Clearly, everything that happened was long ago already within his calculations. Apart from Tang San, Zhu Zhuqing was the first of the Shrek 7 devils to wake up and, practically without pause, turned around and ran towards the spirit fighting arena entrance, one hand pressed hard over her mouth. The second to run out was Ning Rongrong, closely followed by Oscar and Ma Hongjun. Only Dai Mabai, Tang San and Xiao Wu still remained in the spirit fighting ring. "I'll go see to Zhuqing." Dai Mabai's voice sounded somewhat strange. Tang San nodded once, and Dai Mabai immediately turned around and left. Looking up at the for a long time already lifeless announcer hovering in the air, Tang San as much as possible lowered his voice. "Can you declare the results of this spirit fight?" The announcer woke as if from a dream. He discovered that his trousers had at some point become wet. Unexpectedly he had peed his pants. His originally sonorous voice had become hoarse. Team spirit fight, Shrek 7 devils, versus Fiend Team. Fiend Team eliminated. Shrek 7 devils team level surpassing challenge successful. With a satisfactory answer, Tang San with an expressionless face took Xiao Wu's hand, then walked over towards the spirit fighting ring entrance. The audience woke up at the announcer's declaration. In a moment, the whole main spirit arena was boiling. Every kind of doubtful call, admiring call and terrified call rose and fell in succession. But this was already unrelated to the Shrek 7 devils. To them, this spirit fight was already over. As Tang San brought Xiao Wu back behind the stage, he discovered that apart from Dai Mabai, the other four were incessantly vomiting. Xiao Wu next to Tang San shuddered once, then suddenly took off her mask, joining the four. The only ones left enduring with the strongest willpower were Tang San and Dai Mabai. Despite this, Tang San still saw that Dai Mabai's complexion was pale, his mind clearly somewhat unwell. Tang San was still a bit better off. He was after all a person of 2 lives, with the staunch willpower of 40 years in 2 worlds. Besides him, the oldest of everyone was Dai Mabai at 15. Dai Mabai was admittedly strong, his style robust, but he was after all an ordinary person. This was still his first time killing a person. Instantly killing 7 opponents, that scene of blood wildly spurting out, the enemy's eyeballs protruding, and still their distorted expressions at death's door, without exception left a profound brand on the hearts of each of the Shrek 7 devils. That kind of feeling couldn't be compared to any other matter. Tang San, we killed people. Yes. Dai Mabai found it somewhat difficult to speak. Tang San nodded. Yes. We killed people. Teacher said, they were all cruel and savage. Their deaths not deserving of pity. Ning Rongrong raised her head with a pale complexion, with difficulty saying, but those were still 7 real living people. The moment before they were still brimming with ferocity, the next moment they already became corpses. We killed people, really killed people. Oscar spoke while gasping for breath as he held his stomach. As a spirit master, killing is an issue you all had to face sooner or later. Everything right now was still a difficulty you all had to pass. Since you would confront it sooner or later, then, a bit early is better than you having to vomit in the battlefield. Otherwise, you would end up the same as those 7 people out there. Corpses. Grandmaster slowly walked in, his face very serene, speaking in a calm voice, somewhat inharmonious to the Shrek 7 devils' ears. Any successful formidable spirit master has walked through the blood of enemies and opponents. You haven't killed before. If you haven't, then where did your spirit rings come from? Spirit beasts are equally living things. From life's point of view, there is no difference between them and humans. When killing spirit beasts, why wouldn't you feel like this? The crisis before you isn't something people can help you pass. You all can only rely on your own willpower. If you feel nauseous, then vomit. Vomiting is normal. Naturally, it's fine. However, if you don't want to become the center of attention, then put away those masks in your hands and follow me away from here first. When the Shrek 7 devils returned to the hotel, even Tang San felt extremely tired, even more tired than in their demonic training. This wasn't physical, but rather an ordeal of the soul. It was also Tang San's first time killing people, and although his will was steady, Meng Li's dying expression still stuck in his mind for a very long time. Just like what Ning Rongrong said, even though he clearly knew the opponents had chosen the road of death, those were still real living people. Grandmaster and Flender gathered with the teachers in their room. Flender was excited right now. When the market finally closed, the odds reached 1 to 20, earning everyone a large profit. The money had already been received. At that time, including the Great Spirit Arena, at least 6 or 7 influential powers had issued invitations for the Shrek 7 devils, but he had refused them all. To the other spirit masters participating in spirit fights, the Fiend team's death was to everyone's satisfaction. A lot of people even thought that this was all a trap specially directed at Fiend team by some teams whose members had been killed by them coming together to devise this method of revenge. Although the godly Zhuge crossbow was powerful, its weak points were also extremely clear and had been seen by a number of observant people. Like Grandmaster said, the godly Zhuge crossbow could penetrate any second spirit ability defense, but to third spirit abilities or higher, it had no effect on defense-oriented spirit abilities. Moreover, the godly Zhuge crossbow was only effective within a certain range. Beyond 50 meters, its attack power would drop dramatically. On this point it was far from able to compare to bow and arrow. The godly Zhuge crossbow's biggest advantage was in surprise. Once this advantage was gone, then, it was only a kind of relatively powerful weapon, that's all. Grandmaster, did you earlier already plan for that fiend team to die? Otherwise, why would you choose such an outstandingly stinky opponent? As Zhao Wuji finished sharing the loot with Flender, he asked Grandmaster. Grandmaster nodded. Yes, this was another kind of test for them, or perhaps a tempering. Let me ask, who of you haven't killed people? I'll bet every spirit master over 50th rank has human blood on their hands. As I said before, since it has to be experienced sooner or later, putting them through it while we're at their side is only a good deed towards them. At least when it happens again they can be somewhat mentally prepared. Zhao Wuji sighed. But, in the end they're still so young, wouldn't it upset him too much? Grandmaster calmly smiled. These children are all astute. They won't waste time on insoluble problems. Flender, if you're done counting coins, you can go comfort them. I've done my work as the villain, I'll let you be the good guy. Flender grinned, saying, in the children's hearts I'm a positive figure, naturally I'm the best as this good guy. Wuji, don't worry, I support Xiao Gang's actions. Originally, when I first killed a man I also collapsed vomiting. Thinking back to it now it was still somewhat ridiculous. This is a necessary life experience, letting him experience it a little earlier is no matter. I'll go chat with them. To the Shrek 7 devils, this was a sleepless night. The next morning, before the sky was bright, a group of people already quietly left Silver's city, continuing towards their destination, setting off for Heaven Du Empire's capital city. The Shrek 7 devils' complexions were still somewhat pale, especially for Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong who had vomited the most violently. One evening clearly wasn't enough for them to completely recover. But after Flender's talk, they also with some difficulty accepted the facts. The main idea of Flender's argument was really very simple. Killing a bad person was equivalent to saving countless good people. If the bad person didn't die, he would only kill even more people. It wasn't murder, it was saving lives. After absorbing this kind of thinking, it indeed let the Shrek 7 devils more easily accept some of the pain in their hearts. But truly getting used to this kind of feeling of killing wasn't easy. That still required countless experiences. Volume 9, Golden Iron Triangle, Chapter 58, Heaven Du Imperial Academy. Out of sympathy for the children, in addition to Flender's good mood from the Big Prophet, the following several days of travel all advanced at a normal pace. The Shrek 7 devils also gradually struggled free from the fear after killing people. Able to become the Shrek Academy's little monsters, as long as they could move past it, their hearts wouldn't suffer so badly. Grandmaster, according to the map, once we reach Heaven Du City, where in the city is Heaven Du Imperial Academy. While Flender studied the map he asked Grandmaster. On the map was no indicator for Heaven Du Imperial Academy. Grandmaster looked at Flender. If you don't know, how would I? How can you still be considered a dean? Flender snapped. What do you mean, still be considered? I've always been one. Okay. Since you also don't know. Wuji, Shao Xin. Do you know? Zhao Wuji smiled wryly. You know we both aren't regular academy-fostered spirit masters, even less with backgrounds like this Imperial Academy's nobles, how would we know? I've only visited Heaven Du City once or twice, that's all. I have no impression of the location of this Heaven Du Imperial Academy. They're still all the same. The other three teachers by chance nodded at the same time, indicating their helplessness. Dean Flender, I know where Heaven Du Imperial Academy is. At this moment, it was Ning Rongrong who settled Flender's imminent problem. My family's castle isn't far from Heaven Du City. I used to come play in Heaven Du City with my clansmen, and we also went to Heaven Du Imperial Academy. Even though directly related family members all study within the school, there were some branch members at the Imperial Academy. Actually, Heaven Du Imperial Academy isn't inside Heaven Du City, but outside. Just like our Shrek Academy was outside Suotuo City. Flender smiled proudly. See, this Heaven Do Imperial Academy's dean thinks like me. The facts prove how discerning I am. Grandmaster to the side poured cold water on his pride. If I'm not mistaken, you didn't place the academy within the city since you were embarrassingly short of money. This Heaven Do Imperial Academy being placed outside the capital city is out of fear the capital's lavishness will affect the students' cultivation, and even more importantly perhaps because there isn't any sufficiently large space for an academy in Heaven Do City. From what I know, even though Heaven Do Imperial Academy isn't considered as having a lot of students, having every kind of flawless facility requires a great deal of space. Zhao Wuji grinned. Grandmaster, you just speak frankly. Put down this guy's delusions. Delusions your head. Zhao Wuji, you've been very energetic lately. Come, we'll exchange pointers, let the children have a look at what a Spirit Emperor level battle is like. While speaking, Flender gestured with his hands. Zhao Wuji didn't look at him. Extending two arms, embracing Lu Ji Bin and Li Yu Song at his side, Flender, you want to bully me? Keep dreaming, I wouldn't fight you. If you must fight me, I won't retaliate. Let the children have a look at you bullying your juniors, setting an example. You, Flender resolutely glared at Zhao Wuji. I've found that since Grandmaster came, you've become a lot more devious. Stop fighting, don't get me mixed up in your matters. How am I involved in this? Grandmaster stretched his body. Don't speak nonsense, let's go quickly. Since Rongrong knows the way, we can reach the Imperial Academy today. It's also good to let the children start cultivating in peace a bit earlier. Flender helplessly said, you really are a cultivation madman. With you here, I've become the gentle and soft representative. After eating some simple rations, everyone set out once again. At nightfall, led by Ning Rongrong, they finally arrived at their destination, Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Rongrong, you're sure it's here? Flender asked with a somewhat strange voice. Ning Rongrong nodded, saying, yeah, no mistake. Heaven Do Imperial Academy wouldn't change places, I'm sure it's here. But this is a mountain. This mountain all belongs to Heaven Do Imperial Academy. And that forest behind it and that lake at the foot of the mountain too, they're all under the Academy's supervision. We'll enter the Academy grounds at once. Seeing the dumbstruck Flender, Grandmaster contentedly said, mountains on one side and water on the other, it really is a good place. The other teachers all nodded in admiration. The scenery here was indeed beautiful, especially this moment as the sun was setting in the west. Under the contrast of the red-colored clouds in the west, whether it was the lake at the foot or that 1,000-meter-tall mountain covered in every kind of plant itself, all gave people a feeling like the Garden of Peaches of immortality. The distance from here to Heaven Do Empire's imperial capital Heaven Do City was less than 20 kilometers, and with such beautiful surroundings, recalling that they would live here from here on, even Zhao Wuji and the other teachers all felt greatly satisfied. Only Flender was still unconvinced. The setting is good, but is the area really so amazing? Does it foster strength? It doesn't compare to our Shrek Academy. Even though our place was small, there were a lot of monsters. Grandmaster nodded thoughtfully. Flender, honestly, up till now I've never been too clear on how so many children with outstanding potential could be duped into entering your Shrek Academy. What method did you use to swindle them into enrolling? I used. That's rubbish. What are you calling swindle? It's called my charisma. Flender hastily corrected himself, glaring at Grandmaster. We can go up the mountain just in time for dinner. Let's have a look at the treatment here. If it's not good, I'm still not staying. Right now Flender appeared more like a rash child. Even the Shrek 7 devils to the side couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Right now, they could also understand Flender's mood. After all, the crystallization of his heart's blood, the Shrek Academy, had already ended. To his eyes this Heaven Do Imperial Academy more resembled a rival opponent. Before walking more than a few steps, trouble arrived. Who are you to stand around here? 10, 18 or 19-year-old spirit masters were barring the way. Although they hadn't summoned their spirits, from their goose yellow uniforms it was apparent these were all students of Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Flender grandly said, We're Shrek Academy. Complying with Heaven Do Imperial Academy's invitation, specially here for the exchange. Lead the way. The leader of the youths looked Flender up and down several times, again taking a look at the other's clothes, wearing a disdainful expression. You country bumpkins have come for an exchange at our academy. To me, you look like beggars from somewhere. Hurry up and get lost. Otherwise, we'll have to use force. After traveling for close to 10 days, everyone from the Shrek Academy were indeed somewhat travel-worn, but not as extreme as he said. This Heaven Do Imperial Academy student leader clearly was one to judge by appearance. Seeing the Shrek Academy group's simple clothes, and adding Flender's haughty and austere words left him out of sorts, making him say this. There were truly very few with the ability to enter Heaven Do Imperial Academy. The majority relied on connections and noble titles to gain admittance. This was also always Heaven Do Imperial Academy's biggest issue. Otherwise, how would they have the reputation of the #1 academy without the #1 strength? Let alone the Shrek Academy teachers who were originally all haughty contemporaries, renouncing the opportunity to join Spirit Master clans or other influential powers in order to found Shrek Academy. Right now, even the Shrek 7 Devils' anger reached the heavens from the other side's arrogant words. Dai Mabai's figure flickered, at once already standing before Flender, ice-cold air bursting out in a flash. Ever since childhood this was the first time anyone had insulted him like this, and still with such a loathful tone. He was never a good-tempered person, and furthermore they had even insulted his teacher. If the evil eye white tiger could endure this, then he wouldn't be a tiger, but a sickly cat. Hong! Dai Mabai kicked the speaking youth into the air. Directly afterward, he unleashed his spirit. At the sudden change, these Heaven Do Academy noble children immediately lost their heads out of fear. How could they have expected that the other side would actually dare fight them at the gate of their academy? Besides a few thinking fast enough to release their spirits, the majority unexpectedly quickly retreated, for fear they would be involved. But even if it was those few students with spirits released, with one look at the 3 spirit rings sparkling over Dai Mabai, how would they still dare fight, and swiftly retreated? In their minds, the concept of winning from a position of weakness didn't exist. Spirit rings were an absolute gap, and among them wasn't even one who had reached the 30th rank. With Dai Mabai's abundant battle experience, by the strike first and ask questions later principle, he didn't even give the other Shrek 7 Devils the chance to act. Tiger paw swinging, he already sent flying a few individuals who were slow to retreat. Watching Dai Mabai fight, Flender and the others couldn't help but frown. Naturally they wouldn't be dissatisfied because Dai Mabai beat up the other side, but rather because these Heaven Do Imperial Academy students really were too lacking in inner qualities. Flender once said, "It's all right to be arrogant, but you must be able to back up your arrogance. Otherwise there's a problem with your brain." Yet, each and every one of these young people were unexpectedly unable to take a single blow. One must know, although their spirit power was very far from Dai Mabai's, they had the absolute numerical advantage. If they were to combine their powers and stand up to Dai Mabai's attack, they would at least be able to resist him. However, in front of them was an unexpected situation. None of them retaliated. They looked like deserters who threw away their helmet and ran away from a battle. There were even some crying for their mom and dad, completely lacking the appearance of spirit masters. Flender faced Zhao Wuji and said, "This is Heaven Do Imperial Academy's students. They are all trash. I've already started to suspect coming here was a mistake." Zhao Wuji smiled wryly, "Don't ask me. How would I know? Last time the little monsters fought the Heaven Do team, they weren't like this. It could be that there are trash in all places." Even Grandmaster, who had strongly advocated coming here, was lost for words at that moment. "All right, Mabai," Flender called out to Dai Mabai. If they kept of fighting, it wouldn't be a beating anymore. There might be serious injuries. Dai Mabai finally stopped fighting, demonic light flickering in his evil eye double pupils. "Let's see who really gets lost. You guys have the impertinence to cause trouble in our Heaven Do Imperial Academy. This is a provocation to the Empire. You just wait, you just wait. Flender said in a cold voice. That's a fine accusation, too bad you're trash. Call out your academy teachers. At this moment, a bold voice was suddenly heard. What's going on here? Why is there so much noise? From the shady trail on Hillside Forest, a figure quickly appeared in a silver-colored tight suit, and he appeared to be around the same age as Flender. His face was like a silver plate, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, both his hands behind his back. He seemed like an expert. Excellent. Teacher Sun has arrived. The youth from before acted like he saw a saving grace, and he practically crawled over to welcome him. Teacher Sun, they actually dared cause trouble here. They even hit us. You must support us. Teacher Sun looked at the student in front of him as if at a stray dog. He couldn't help but wrinkle his eyebrows. Zhu Beng, do you know what you look like right now? In front of strangers, he did not reprimand his student further as his gaze swept across Shrek Academy's party. Teachers and students, after all, were not the same. When Teacher Sun made eye contact with Flender, his heart could not help but secretly tremble as he hurriedly advanced a few steps, faintly saluting. If you please, this one is Sun Buyu. May I know what business you have with our Heaven Do Imperial Academy? He didn't even mention the fact that his students were beaten. When he stood there, an unflustered aura emanated from him. As the man was being very courteous, Flender naturally wouldn't dwell on the earlier events as he calmly said, "We are here to find Qin Ming. Earlier your noble institution's students said we were beggars, telling us to get lost. Thus we had a conflict. You are here to see Teacher Qin." Sun Buyu was shocked as his heart moved. Could it be that everybody is from Balak Kingdom's Shrek Academy? Flender nodded his head. It's true. Sun Buyu was shocked as his expressions suddenly became extremely polite. Able to teach a talent like Teacher Qin, I truly admire you. Regarding the situation just now, I apologize on behalf of Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Everybody please enter, he said as he extended an inviting gesture while glaring at those Heaven Do Imperial Academy student as if to say he would deal with them later. The Shrek Academy party then followed this teacher Sun Buyu as he guided him along a mountain path, towards the school in the heart of the mountain. Watching him gradually disappear in the distance, previously kicked flying by Daima Bai, Zhu Beng couldn't help but display a poisonous light in his eyes. Shrek Academy. What Shrek Academy? Still haven't come to our academy to work for food. Humph, just wait. With me here, you won't want to stay. Your Majesty, this isn't good. The student next to him cautiously said. What isn't good? Even this empire is owned by my family. Let's go. I won't go to class today. I will first look for justice as royalty cannot take a beating. If we don't drive them away, I won't be able to rest easy. Entering the middle of the mountain, one is finally able to understand the extent of Heaven Do Imperial Academy. The stone steps used to climb the mountain were created by sculpting white marble, as every stone step all had different designs of various spirit beasts, exquisite craftsmanship. The glow of the setting sun on the white marble left behind jagged shadows of dancing red trees, further adding a unique and tranquil feeling. Breathing in this fresh air, it was as if everyone had walked into a botanical world. The one whose thoughts were stirred the most was Tang San. His mysterious heaven skill's inner strength grasped onto his blue-silver grass aura. In this mountain range full of plants, it seemed to be extremely lively. This feeling was also felt when they entered Stardew Great Forest, but not as obvious as now. Tang San knew that this was due to him breaking through the 30th level bottleneck. After breaking through rank 30, Spirit Masters would have an even more acute sense of energy when near things of the same attribute. Tang San's blue-silver grass spirit was a botanical spirit. Thus, surrounded by this botanical world, his spirit power would naturally become much more sensitive. Among the reasons why Grandmaster wanted to bring the Shrek 7 Devils, the most important one was because this advanced Spirit Master Academy was built by the Heavenly Do Imperial family, thus all equipment here would naturally be the most outstanding. However, regarding spirit training methods, although external facilities weren't decisive, their assisting effect couldn't be ignored. Among the most effective activities for a spirit master was mimicry cultivation for their attributes. So-called mimicry cultivation refers to letting spirit masters cultivate their spirits in the most fitting environment. Although doing it this way would not use twice the effort for half the result, it was able to provide a considerable assisting effect. For example, a forest or place full of plants would be the most suitable place for Tang San to cultivate, with his plant-type spirit. Thus being in the kitchen of restaurant would fit Oscar, whose spirit was food-related. Additionally, beast spirit masters according to their spirits have increased spirit cultivation effects when cultivating with similar animals. Specific bonus effects would be dependent on the spirit master's own attribute. In summary, the stronger a spirit was in itself, the more potential he would have, and in a mimicry environment, training would be even more beneficial. Due to Shrek Academy's conditions, it was only natural that cultivation in a mimicry environment was impossible. However, Heaven Do Imperial Academy wasn't like this. The main reason why it occupied a large area and was built outside Heaven Do City was the building of the mimicry environments. As a comprehensive Spirit Master Advanced Academy, they needed every kind of mimicry cultivation ground. Plant system Spirit Masters and food system Spirit Masters were still easy to handle, but various Beast Spirit Masters' mimicry cultivation ground would not be easy to build. Consequently, it was impossible to build a mimicry cultivation ground for every form of Beast Spirit Masters. Despite this, inside Heaven Do Imperial Academy, there was still close to 100 various types of mimicry cultivation grounds. Using the saying Heaven Do Imperial Academy uses for enrolling students, one would always be able to find one that fits him. In the mountains, not only was the air fresh, but it was also extremely moist. A relaxing feeling came over the Shrek Academy party, causing them to forget what happened earlier. Sun Buyu obviously did not want to talk about those students, and on the way he gave the Shrek Academy party a presentation on the scenery. This academy's main campus is situated halfway up the mountain. The mimicry regions are separated into the mountain top, all the places below the mountain, and the lakeside. Grandmaster asked, "Teacher Sun, how many students does Heaven Do Imperial Academy have right now?" Sun Buyu said, "Approximately 500 students, basically all from this empire's as well as the subordinate kingdom's nobility. There are more than 50 teachers, and their strength is sufficient, only." When he reached this point, he helplessly shook his head. Everyone knew not to ask. As they were all spirit masters, this mountain path was nothing, and they soon reached the middle of the mountain. Heaven Do Imperial Academy's main campus was consisted entirely of single-story houses, and it gave off the feeling of a fortress. The surrounding courtyard walls were all 5 meters high. The walls were all bright yellow, making it look extremely pretty despite the top of the courtyard wall covering being a glazed roof tile. In the sunset, it was even more beautiful. As soon as Tang San saw the buildings here, his heart could not help but contract a little, as the building arrangement was so similar to Tang Sect's. Filled with all senses of nostalgia, for a long time he couldn't control himself. At this moment, the color of the sky had already started to darken, along with distant clouds in the sunset starting to fade away. Heaven Do Imperial Academy was already brightly lit by lanterns. Entering the school, there were actually no students to be seen. According to Sun Buyu, the majority of them were distributed among the various mimicry cultivation regions, so the main campus consequently did not have any people. He then brought the Shrek Academy party directly into a parlor, letting everyone to wait a bit as he hurriedly ran off to find King Min. "What do you think of this place?" Flender asked his fellow teachers. Sweet Pea Spirit Master Xiao Xin smiled as he said, "It's not bad. Compared to my imagination, it's even better. I really do like the air here." Zhao Wuji said, "Grandmaster's proposal really wasn't bad. Although the students are a bit trash, retiring here isn't a bad option. Heaven Do City is also very close. Everything is very convenient." Flender laughed in spite of himself as he said, "It seems that we really will retire here." After a moment, following a burst of hurried footsteps, Qin Ming quickly stepped inside with a cheerful expression. "Dean Flender, you're finally here. I've anxiously awaited you." While speaking, he hastily stepped forward to give Flender and the other Shrek Academy teachers his salute. Flender pulled him up, smiling. "Don't be so overly courteous. As for arriving, later we will still be relying on you to get along. Have you arranged things on this end?" Qin Ming hurriedly nodded. "Don't worry, Dean. I've arranged it already. I've notified Heaven Do Academy's senior staff to greet you. They're exceptionally happy to have the teachers join, although they're not convinced the juniors are actually so powerful. But the children from Emperor Team also attested to it. There are no problems. Like this, all the teachers and juniors have traveled far. For today, why don't you first rest? I'll give everyone places to stay. Tomorrow I'll bring you to meet the senior staff. We'll consider this matter decided." Flender was very satisfied with Qin Ming's arrangements. Qin Ming immediately brought him to a courtyard on the west side of Heaven Do Imperial Academy's main campus. Here everything was already arranged cleanly and neatly. Not only did each person have their own room, but there was also a big parlor. All the articles for daily use were brand new. The whole courtyard was like its own world. Everything was far better than at Shrek Academy. Not only were the teachers satisfied, the Shrek 7 Devils were also pleasantly surprised, thinking to themselves that this senior Qin Ming's ability to handle matters was truly powerful. Everything was arranged so appropriately. With everything arranged to their satisfaction, everyone gathered in the parlor. Qin Ming sat next to Flender, earnestly asking the teachers, "I hope all the teachers and juniors satisfied. After I returned to the academy to arrange this matter, I looked around and found this to be the best location. Leaving the courtyard you can see the mountain scenery outside, and moreover you can see the lake below. From this side there's a road that leads directly to the foot of the mountain. Leaving for Heaven Do City is also very convenient." Zhao Wuji smiled. "Qin Ming, you're really quite something. You've arranged things very well." Qin Ming said, "It's no more than I should. The time is getting late. Originally I wanted to invite all the teachers and juniors to Heaven Do City to find a good place to hold a welcoming dinner and wash off the dust, but at this time of night, we can casually eat something in the academy. Once tomorrow's matters are settled, I think the academy will specially entertain all the teachers." Flender said, "Qin Ming, you know we don't care much for worldly ceremonies. You don't have to go to any trouble." Qin Ming looked at Flender, his eyes colored with heartfelt emotion. "Dean Flender, without you and all the other teachers, there wouldn't be a Qin Ming today. This time I finally have the opportunity to reciprocate. How couldn't I do it with all my heart?" The dinner was even more sumptuous than imagined. Although it was hastily arranged, Qin Ming had still done his utmost to have the best dishes prepared for everyone, and by the time the meal was finished the stars hung high overhead. The Shrek Academy members had traveled hard for several days to arrive here and, all somewhat tired, each retired to their rooms. After an eventless night, on the next morning, Tang San had just finished cultivating his purple demon eye when Qin Ming arrived, even having the academy specially engage a chef to bring steaming hot breakfast dishes. "Little San, you're up so early." Qin Ming just saw Tang San jump down from the roof, and smiling went to meet him. Tang San laughed, saying, "Senior, you're also up very early." Qin Ming clapped Tang San's shoulder, saying, "Among you Shrek 7 Devils, you gave me the deepest impression. I don't know how you have cultivated this ability at such a young age. You are more outstanding than I was in those days." Hearing Qin Ming's compliments, Tang San, somewhat embarrassed, said, "Senior is too kind." Qin Ming resolutely said, "I'm speaking from the heart. I've been at Heaven Do Imperial Academy for a few years, and there aren't a lot of students with outstanding talent. Like Yu Tian Heng and Dugu Yan, who are both exceptionally talented. But, compared to you, they lack a characteristic quality. You gave me the deepest impression, and it's not even because of your variation blue-silver grass spirit, but rather your calm mind. That spirit battle with Tian Heng's Emperor team, rather than saying they lost to you all in strength, it should be said they lost to your intelligence and local battle control ability. In time, you will definitely become one of the world's top control system spirit masters." Pausing, Qin Ming's gaze became scorching hot. Being able to let teammates display their full strength is already the one requirement for a control system spirit master, but being able to control the circumstances of the battlefield, winning from a position of weakness, that is the potential of a first-rate control system spirit master. You are Grandmaster's disciple, and while I can by far not be compared to Grandmaster's instruction, what I can teach you is the word, confidence. Whatever the situation, when you confront the enemy, always maintain belief in victory, then, you will be able to display the greatest level of your strength. Saying this, Qin Ming once again patted Tang San's shoulder. Junior brother, make the effort. To tell the truth, I truly want to see, when you are 30 years old, just what level you are able to reach. I believe you will definitely surpass mine. Shrek Academy's members got out of bed one after another. As everyone ate breakfast, Qin Ming introduced him to the staff structure of Heaven Du Imperial Academy in simple terms. Heaven Du Imperial Academy sorted all the students into 3 administrative level. Students who had just entered the academy or had strength below the 25th rank were level 1, dubbed the Tiny Heaven level. The level with 25th to 30th rank was the Reaching Heaven level. 30th rank and above subsequently entered the highest Heaven Du level. Like the Emperor Team's 7 members were all well-known figure of the Heaven Du level, and yesterday at the foot of the mountain the Shrek Academy group encountered those tiny Heaven level students. The teachers were sorted into levels the same as students, only the requirements were even higher. Spirit power reaching the 40th rank was the general admittance threshold for Heaven Du Imperial Academy and all advanced Spirit Master Academy teachers. At Heaven Du Academy, teachers over 40th rank and under 50th rank were tiny Heaven level teachers. Within the 50th to 60th ranks, they were reaching Heaven level teachers. Surpassing 60th rank, they were Heaven Du level teachers. Sun Buyu, they met yesterday, was a 53rd rank reaching Heaven level teacher, and Qin Ming had just recently become a Heaven Du level teacher. Since Heaven Du Imperial Academy was affiliated with Heaven Du Empire's imperial family, the dean was nominally the present Heaven Du Empire's emperor. Consequently, within the academy there was no office of dean. As a result, the highest seniority fell to the 3 strongest Heaven Du teachers who formed a board of education. The senior staff Qin Ming had mentioned were them. The majority of the academy's affairs was handled by the board of education. Only for some important matters were instructions from the Heaven Du Empire's imperial household required. Heaven Du Empire's imperial family attached extreme importance to the academy. Although the Heaven Du Emperor was too busy to attend personally, he would commonly also assign an imperial family member to take responsibility for affairs on the academy's side. For some important decisions, the Board of Education also had to ask for instructions. The present Heaven Du Academy's Board of Education 3 chief teachers were all over 80th rank Spirit Douluo, teachers with exceedingly robust strength. There were more than 8 Heaven Du level teachers, extremely rare in the entire Heaven Du Empire. Listening to Qin Ming, Flender smiled. Then you're saying we will also be the same as Heaven Du level teachers? Qin Ming smiled, but of course. Heaven Du level teachers have a very high standing at the academy, commonly only teaching Heaven Du level students. And Heaven Du level students only account for 1/10 of all the students. The education work is exceptionally relaxed, but the payment is very high. Besides the academy taking responsibility for everything required to live in the academy, each month there is a remuneration of 3,000 gold spirit coins. If there are special circumstances, there will still be other income as well. 3,000. Really extravagant. Flender was still used to being the dean. Although he was extremely concerned with the issue of income, he never had the cheek to ask. Right now, hearing Qin Ming mention the figure, 3,000, he couldn't help but be greatly satisfied, the smile on his face widening even more. His satisfaction with this Heaven Du Imperial Academy naturally also rose sharply. Qin Ming, lead the way. We'll go see those 3 Board of Education seniors. Yes, Heaven Du Imperial Academy's Board of Education was located at the heart of the main campus. In the entire main campus, it was the largest building. Although it was still a single-story construction, it was still 10 meters at its highest point, giving somewhat of a spirit hall feeling. Being newcomers, whether it was the Shrek Academy teachers or the Shrek Seven Devils, they were all led here by Qin Ming. Regardless of the good conditions, this was after all not Shrek Academy, not considered their place. Naturally, they couldn't be as unconstrained as before. Although Flender all along had a smiling expression, after so many years of freedom, in his heart he was still somewhat bitter. While Shrek Academy was small, he was still its dean. While Heaven Do Imperial Academy was even better, it still didn't have that kind of familiarity like home. However, Flender's mood very quickly eased a lot. As their party entered the gate to the Board of Education's courtyard, the three elders already waited there since earlier. Although the three elders simply stood there, they gave people a kind of exceedingly strange feeling, as if they were the core of this Heaven Do Academy's main campus, and even of the whole academy. Even if they wore gently smiling expressions, they were still unable to hide that special temperament that belonged to great powers. The three elders were all attired in black robes, on which were embroidered some fantastic designs in golden thread. This kind of robe wasn't exclusive to them, but rather were received from Spirit Hall by 80th rank and over Spirit Douluo title Spirit Masters, custom-made formal robes representing their status. Second only to title Douluo's red ceremonial robes. Volume 9. Golden Iron Triangle. Chapter 59. Connection. First Meridian. Generally speaking, this kind of ceremonial robes were very rarely worn by Spirit Douluo and title Douluo. It represented not only their status, but also solemnity. This kind of exclusive custom-made clothes would only appear when dueling an equally leveled opponent, or for extremely important occasions. And since these three elders wearing these robes right now naturally wasn't for a fight, then, it could only prove one point, that they attached a great deal of importance to the Shrek Academy members. Moreover, these three elders were personally greeting him at the door. Even if Flender was even more arrogant, confronting circumstances like these he still couldn't have helped feeling overwhelmed. He always meant that, who gives me 1 chi of respect, I will give 10 chi of respect. With the other side revealing such a respectful intent, how could he not also make a display? Flender increased his pace, a few steps forward. As he stopped, he already held both hands clasped over shoulder level, slightly bowing. Shrek Academy, Flender, Spirit, Owl, Agility Attack System 78th Rank 7 Ring Battle Spirit Emperor, I greet the seniors. In the Spirit Master world, this kind of action was the etiquette of a younger generation meeting seniors. Although Flender also was more than 50 years old, facing these three more than 80-year-old elders, his courtesy of a junior didn't count as much. The elder in the center laughed out loud, coming forward to meet him with big strides, pulling down Flender's raised hands. There is no need to be so polite, Dean Flender. We have been looking forward to meeting you for a long time, truly for a long time. Able to obtain the guidance of all the teachers of the Monster Academy in person, you bring light to our humble institution. I am the head of administration, Meng Shen Ji, Spirit, Black Goblin, Control System 86th Ranked 8 Ring Battle Spirit Douluo. I'll give you introductions. Meng Shen Ji was medium height, very thin, as if he didn't have any muscles. As he spoke his voice was somewhat crafty, but not at all unpleasant, giving people a kind of very familiar feeling, both his hair and beard white. Although he was thin, his spirit was hale and hearty, a red flush on his face. While speaking, Meng Shen Ji indicated the old man to his left, saying, "This is the Board of Education's second member, Spirit Douluo Bai Baoshan. Spirit, Heaven Star Furnace, Defense System 85th Ranked 8 Ring Battle Spirit Douluo." Bai Baoshan's build was just the opposite of Meng Shen Ji's, not tall but extremely fat. Like 4 chi tall and 4 chi around. He all along had a gently smiling expression, his fat trembling along with his smile. Hearing Meng Shen Ji introduce him, he nodded smiling towards Flender. Meng Shen Ji indicated the other old man, saying, "This is the Board of Education's third member, Ji Lin Spirit Douluo, Spirit, Sky Blue Vine, Control System 83rd Ranked 8-Ring Tool Spirit Douluo. This third member of the Board of Education's senior staff, Ji Lin, appeared the most normal at a glance, appearance very ordinary. Only occasionally a bright light flashed in his eyes that gave people a somewhat unusual feeling. Although Flender already knew that they were all 80th ranked Spirit Douluo or higher, as Mang Shen Ji did the introductions, he still felt awed. Especially as among these 3 Spirit Douluo were unexpectedly 2 Control System Spirit Douluo. While everyone in the Spirit Master world knew that Power Attack System had the fiercest attacks, Control System was the most difficult to deal with, and also the least willing to confront the opponent. Unless one happened to counter their strength, in a 1 versus 1 situation, equally ranked Spirit Masters would find it very difficult to prevail over Control System. Flender also hastily introduced Shrek Academy's teachers. As for the Shrek 7 Devils, they were after all students, and he didn't say much. But Flender noticed that these 3 Board of Education senior staff were even more interested in the Shrek 7 Devils than in them. Meng Shen Ji said, "No need to be polite, finally coming here, treat it like your own home. Please, come inside." The Board of Education wasn't lavish. Just the opposite, the place where these 3 Spirit Douluo handled business and lived was exceptionally austere. Only decorated with essentials and some simple green plants. Host and guests took their seats across from each other. Since there weren't many chairs in the Board of Education, the Shrek 7 Devils could only stand behind the teachers. Right now everyone's gazes were excited. After all, sitting in front of them were 3 Spirit Douluo level powers. In the whole Spirit Master world, Spirit Masters able to cultivate to this degree were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns, and they wouldn't lack formidable strength. Even if they couldn't challenge heaven, they could still easily scatter a 10,000-man army. Meng Shen Ji let servants serve tea and pastries, his gaze sweeping across those Shrek 7 Devils, smiling saying, "We heard from Qin Ming that these children defeated our institution's emperor team. Truly astonishing. The Monster Academy sure enough is a place where monsters gather. Qin Ming's accomplishments already amazed me, but I still didn't expect your institution to cultivate this many geniuses." Flender smiled wryly, saying, "The Shrek Academy has already ceased to exist." Meng Shen Ji firmly said, "No, take a look at these children behind you, their accomplishments hereafter, until successfully graduating the Shrek Academy, will all along belong to Shrek. Qin Ming already explained it very clearly to us. Everyone coming to our humble institution this time is our honor. Unless all you teachers wish for it, the Academy will not assign any teaching duties to you. Here you are all at your liberty. If there is anything you need, then don't hesitate to ask. As long as it's within the limits of my authority, just say it." Flender was after all also a more than 70th ranked power, and naturally saw that the sincerity these 3 Spirit Douluo showed absolutely wasn't faked. From this it could be seen just how much they thirsted for talent. Even to the extent that they without any questions at once chose to completely trust Qin Ming. On the side of the 3 Board of Education members, Spirit Douluo Ji Lin suddenly asked, "I heard from teacher Qin Ming that at your institution is an especially outstanding control system Spirit Master. Who would that be?" Grandmaster calmly smiled, saying, "Talent isn't enough. Tang San." Tang San responded, stepping forward from the Shrek 7 Devils, respectfully saluting the 3 Spirit Douluo, "Greetings 3 teachers." Ji Lin smiled faintly, the air around his body suddenly distorting. The others didn't feel anything, but Tang San clearly found the air around his body seemed to congeal, tremendous spirit power fluctuations rushing out, his body already completely unable to move. This spirit power was somewhat similar to his blue-silver grass spirit power, and although his body was oppressed, Tang San could feel there was no malice within it. He understood that this was the other side testing his strength. Without speaking, he silently urged his mysterious heaven skill, resisting the unceasing invading force. The Shrek Academy members naturally all knew what Spirit Douluo Ji Lin was doing, but nobody said anything. Ji Lin testing Tang San was like an enrollment exam. Flender had foreseen that this would happen, and also let these Heaven Do Imperial Academy senior staff take a look at how outstanding the disciple he had fostered was. Ji Lin's originally gentle gaze gradually became astounded. With his strength, he immediately determined that Tang San's spirit power was around the 33rd rank, proving that Qin Ming hadn't been flattering his accomplishments. But while his plant system spirit power also didn't lack compatibility with his own, he just couldn't understand how this only 33rd ranked spirit power could be so difficult to deal with. Ji Lin, using his spirit power to probe, felt that, even though Tang San's spirit power was far from as formidable as his own, it had a kind of endless toughness. The more pressure he used, the more flexible it became. Furthermore, Tang San's body had an endurance that didn't belong to a 33rd ranked spirit master. Faced with his pressure, he unexpectedly didn't show any signs of pain. As a matter of fact, the pressure he used was something that a 30th level spirit master should find somewhat difficult to endure. What he didn't know was that Tang San's body constantly endured spirit ring and spirit power transformation. At the same time, unlike ordinary spirit masters, he also had an external spirit bone. With the potency of the man-faced demon spider's spirit bone, to his strength, endurance and agility, it had an extremely significant effect. Otherwise, how could Tang San have led the Shrek Seven Devils to successive victories against powerful enemies? Even Dai Mabai was resigned to not being his equal. This external spirit bone 8 spider lances didn't just have its effect on the outside, its imperceptible influence was equally significant. That symbolic black robe spirit Douluo Ji Lin wore didn't shift, and although he simply sat there, Tang San still clearly felt the pressure around him increasing bit by bit. This spirit Douluo was extremely conscientious, afraid that Tang San would be unable to endure a sudden increase in strength. Under his accurate control, his spirit power was only gradually increasing. Once Tang San showed any signs of being unable to endure, he would also immediately withdraw the force. Tang San naturally also understood this control system spirit Douluo was testing his strength. In front of Flender, Grandmaster and the other Shrek Academy members, he knew he wasn't just representing himself, but rather the whole Shrek Academy. Therefore, even though the surrounding pressure grew greater and greater, and the mysterious heaven skill pressure within his body also worked faster and faster, he didn't display the slightest bit of a pained expression. After many years of cultivation, adding countless training and ordeals, Tang San's willpower wasn't something a 13-year-old possessed. Originally he endured the enormous pain produced by that man-faced demon spider spirit ring. How would he easily surrender now? Secretly tightening both fists in his sleeves, Tang San's complexion didn't vary, expression neither servile nor overbearing. Along with mysterious heaven skill working, around his body gradually appeared a faint layer of white mist, releasing a slight fragrance. As the internal strength circulated, it completely fused with the properties of blue-silver grass. As the pressure grew greater and greater, Sky Blue Vine Spirit Douluo Ji Lin grew more and more astonished. Was this really just a 13-year-old child? How couldn't he see Tang San was using willpower combined with his physical strength to withstand the spirit power pressure, but so far he unexpectedly hadn't been able to get this child to release his spirit. Tang San by far already surpassed his expectations. All people have a desire to win, and Spirit Douluo were no exception. Adding competitiveness to curiosity, when confronting this genius, Ji Lin couldn't help but want to see just how far this child's limits could reach. Seeing Tang San nod slightly, Ji Lin's robe no longer fluctuated with spirit power, rather quietly recovered to normal. Seeing this, the other two Spirit Douluo at his side also couldn't help be astonished. The three of them had been together for a very long time. Naturally, they understood just how much spirit power Ji Lin was using right now. The two Spirit Douluo couldn't help show a concerned expression, although they knew Ji Lin was a person who would act appropriately. Just the chance of injuring this kid was bad. But very quickly, the two Spirit Douluo's concern became amazement. Tang San simply stood there like a towering mountain. Even though the pressure increased yet again, he didn't move at all, only his expression gradually tightened. Not even the spirit had been forced out. This was the thought the three spirit Douluo all had at the same time. How was it possible? Jilin inwardly trembled a moment. He was only too clear on his own spirit power output. Even a 35th ranked spirit elder would definitely have been forced to release their spirit. Moreover, they wouldn't be as calm as this youngster. If speaking of showing an unvarying expression or firm willpower, as the pressure reached a certain degree, it wasn't something willpower was capable of influencing. Generally speaking, for inferior spirit masters enduring the direct spirit power pressure of high-level spirit masters able to support 2/3 of their own level was already outstanding, and if they were able to support even their own degree of spirit power, then they had extraordinarily staunch willpower. But this was also on the conditions that they had released their spirit. Moreover, if they were beast spirit masters, the assistance to their own body was much greater for beast spirit masters than tool spirit masters. The advantage of tool spirit masters lay in being able to make use of weapons. From Qin Ming's introduction, these three spirit Douluo all knew Tang San certainly was a tool spirit master, but a tool spirit master able to support pressure exceeding his spirit power by 10%, and moreover without even releasing his spirit. This was just too inconceivable. Along with the spirit power fluctuations in the air gradually growing more intense, Flender, Zhao Wuji and the others gradually also grew nervous, sitting straight, staring fixedly at Tang San for fear that any accident would occur. Only Grandmaster still leaned back in his chair, sipping tea, calmly observing the scene without the slightest hint of concern. Nobody had a better understanding of Tang San's strength than Grandmaster. Grandmaster was perfectly capable of calculating Tang San's limit in the current circumstances. Right now he hadn't even released his spirit. Naturally he wasn't close to his limits. It could even be said that there was still a considerable distance to the limit. Grandmaster further knew that Tang San's spirit power was exceptional, brimming with endurance just like his blue-silver grass. It wasn't obvious in a fight, since endurance often increased the capability to prolong the fight. But confronting this kind of constantly growing pressure, this aspect of his spirit power had plenty of room to appear. The spirit power pressure Jilin released had already increased past 35th rank to 36th rank, immediately followed by 37th, 38th, 39th. As the power of his spirit power pressure finally increased to around the 40th rank or so, Tang San finally revealed a trace of suffering. His face showed a slight change, and he with some effort raised his right hand. Blue light flickered, and blue-silver grass burst from his palm like a blossoming flower, drifting in the air, forming an enormous cage, enveloping Tang San within. Blue-purple luster flourished, all the blue-silver grass swaying in the air. With each swaying motion the air produced a kind of peculiar feeling, as if even the air moved along rhythmically. Spirit Douluo Jilin felt it the most clearly. The moment Tang San released blue-silver grass, he had a kind of feeling like being relieved of a burden. Just as he prepared to withdraw his spirit power, finishing this test, Tang San's blue-silver grass staged this bizarre scene before him. The round cage surrounded Tang San. Between each strand of blue-silver grass was only slight cracks. Along with each of the gentle oscillations, Jilin was amazed to discover that the pressure he issued seemed as if it was pushing against something elastic. Along with blue-silver grass light movements, the pressure he put on Tang San weakened a lot. To be precise, it was the pressure he put on Tang San that was reduced. This child unexpectedly had so many surprises. The three spirit Douluo's amazed expressions gradually grew pleased. Actually, even Tang San himself didn't know why blue-silver grass would act like this. On the surface he might appear exceptionally resolute, but in fact, confronted with the 40th rank spirit power pressure, he already even had difficulties breathing, only supported by his unwillingness to let Shrek Academy lose face. Blue-silver grass had been released when he was completely unable to endure. Blue-silver grass current shape and movements were both completely involuntary, but with those rhythmical motions, Tang San immediately felt the pressure drop considerably. In his mind immediately rose a kind of exceptionally formidable force leveraging technique, 4 Liang pushing 1,000 jin. 4 Liang pushing 1,000 jin was a commonly used martial skill in Tang San's previous world, and naturally he knew it. But he didn't quite understand why his blue spirit grass would suddenly on its own display his martial skills without his meticulous control. Sensing this, Tang San suddenly discovered that there were a lot of parts to his spirit that he didn't understand. With the pressure eased, Tang San's expression naturally also recovered to normal. But these circumstances made Spirit Douluo Dalu withdraw his intent to stop the test. The spirit power pressure increased another step, and this time it also grew stronger at a faster pace than before. 4 Liang pushing 1,000 jin was admittedly possible, but what about 10,000 jin? How would it be pushed? With the sharply increasing pressure, Tang San was conscious of how the outer edges of the energy channels within his body seemed to explode, his entire body in extreme pain, his skin gradually filling with blood. As mysterious heaven skill worked faster and faster, the energy channels in his body would bring extreme pain with each collision. The motions of the blue-silver grass surrounding him also grew faster and faster, but in the end their ability to disperse spirit power was limited. However, cut off by blue-silver grass, everyone outside were unable to see Tang San, only thinking Tang San was still staunchly resisting. They didn't know right now his face was already deep red, finally reaching a dangerous level. The current pressure had already reached the level of 45th ranked spirit power. Endure, I can still endure, Tang San constantly told himself, straightening his back as the spirit power still increased. Tang San's body also finally reached its limit. By now it was already difficult for him to move a finger. But at this moment, Tang San suddenly felt as if something shattered within him. Immediately afterward, the originally rapidly circulating mysterious heaven skill suddenly slowed, and in that moment all the pressure seemed to gush out from his back in a split second, draining away in a moment. Pooh! The blue-silver grass surrounding him scattered outward, Tang San's whole body shivering a moment. His appearance was once again visible to everyone. However, as they saw at him, they all couldn't help but start with alarm. Right now Tang San's body had unexpectedly swollen one size, and on his back the external spirit bone 8 spider lances already released excitedly, the purple lustrous 8 spider lances softly moving rhythmically behind Tang San's back like wings. That spider web-like pattern had appeared on Tang San's forehead, and this time was especially clear. Tang San's expression was relaxed, breathing in that layer of white mist around him through his nose like rivers flowing into the sea, again breathing it out through his mouth. With each repetition, the white mist seemed to increase somewhat, and Tang San's body would also expand even more. Spirit Bone. The 3 Heaven Do Imperial Academy Spirit Douluo practically simultaneously cried out in alarm. Jilin immediately stopped pressuring Tang San. They naturally saw that Tang San had now already hit his limit. Increasing the pressure might even kill him. The tips of 8 spider lances gradually turned white. This white color was seeping out from within 8 spider lances. Tang San's body didn't change at all from the disappearance of the external pressure, still constantly inhaling and exhaling that white vapor. Many thanks for helping with the completion, Spirit Douluo Dalu. Grandmaster stood up with a smile on his face, bowing to Jilin. Jilin stared blankly. Completion? What completion? Even as a Spirit Douluo level formidable spirit master, he didn't understand what the problem was with Tang San's body right now, and was still inwardly nervous. Grandmaster smiled slightly, saying, since Tang San this child obtained this external spirit bone, even though his strength has increased a lot, he has never been able to truly harmonize with it. Under Spirit Douluo Dalu's pressure, I think that this time he is finally fusing with his external spirit bone, leaving no separation, the external spirit bone becoming a part of his body, and no longer external. Hearing the words, external spirit bone, the 3 Spirit Douluo practically simultaneously stood up from their seats, and Qin Ming leapt up as if he'd burned his buttocks. The 3 Spirit Douluo looked at each other. Their insight was of course incomparable to what Qin Ming was capable of. and they had instantly realized that the 8 spider lances on Tang San's back was a spirit bone instead of a spirit. But they still hadn't expected it would actually be an external spirit bone. They could feel its power just from the atmosphere released by 8 spider lances. A just 13-year-old child had not only reached beyond the 30th rank of spirit power, but even possessed an external spirit bone. That object ranked only second to a 100,000-year spirit ring on the wish lists of all spirit masters. What did this signify? What kind of potential was this? Even though his spirit was only blue-silver grass. Is this really an external spirit bone? Meng Shen-ji's voice trembled severely. Grandmaster nodded, saying, I'm certain. However, I'll ask the board to keep it secret. Although the external spirit bone is already fused with Tang San's body and won't be released after his death like other spirit bones, but treasuring a jade ring may become a crime even for innocent men. I still don't wish for him to face 2 formidable opponents as he matures. We understand, don't worry, we swear on our spirits, we absolutely will not divulge this to anyone. The expression in Meng Shen-ji's eyes was gratitude. The reason was very simple. The Shrek group hadn't concealed the matter of Tang San's external spirit bone from him. This point alone proved how much they valued Heaven Do Imperial Academy. An external spirit bone really was too precious. Should some vicious formidable spirit masters learn of it, they absolutely wouldn't leave Tang San room to grow. In fact, how was Grandmaster such a careless person? He had long before even coming here made meticulous investigations about Heaven Do Imperial Academy. These 3 spirit Douluo were all revered in the spirit world as kind-hearted seniors, otherwise he wouldn't so easily have exposed Tang San's secret. Heat, that was all Tang San felt right now. The uncomfortable feeling from the pressure had already completely disappeared. Right now he only felt as if he was roasting in a blast furnace. Somewhat similar to the feeling of absorbing the man-faced demon spider's spirit ring, but compared to that time this suffering was a lot less. Only the burning heat, and without the pain. Although the circulation of mysterious heaven's skill internal strength had slowed down considerably, with each revolution it became thicker, and seemed to constantly attack some particular energy channels. That shattering feeling Tang San had before seemed to be the result of an energy channel connecting. The moment the pressure was the greatest, Tang San hadn't realized a black light shone in his left palm, but he still had a feeling of great strength bursting forth from within his heart. Were it not for that feeling of the energy channel connecting, perhaps his other spirit would have appeared. Right now Tang San didn't have the capability to think it over, and was only enduring the shock of that flowing heat. Within him mysterious heaven's skill seemed to absorb it. With each revolution Tang San would feel a bit more comfortable. Therefore he could only keep going. After a brief moment of shock the 3 spirit Douluo gradually calmed, but Qin Ming clearly lacked a bit in inner qualities, and was still extremely agitated. Meng Shen-ji loosed a long breath. I truly didn't expect, that in our spirit master world there would be such a genius. I truly am happy to have met all of you here today. Flender equally loosed a breath, shooting Grandmaster an inquisitive look. Grandmaster lightly nodded to him, hinting there would be no problems with Tang San. Flender then said to Meng Shen-ji, we dare not take credit for this child's capabilities, he's Grandmaster's direct disciple. Moreover, his own innate talent is exceptionally outstanding. In our Shrek Academy's history, these 7 children are all the most gifted by heaven. Not only Tang San, but each of the others also have their own talent. The reason we chose to come to Heaven Do Imperial Academy wasn't to let their talents be buried, but in the hopes that here they would be able to fully develop their talent with the best cultivation environments. They are the last class of Shrek Academy, and as Dean, I truly hope to one day see their capabilities as titled Douluo, far surpassing my own achievements. Right now Flender's eyes didn't hold a hint of deviousness, filled with sincerity. And the Shrek 6 devils behind him hearing Flender's words got a somewhat strange feeling. They found that Flender seemed to become even older, the silhouette of his back giving off a lonely feeling. Yes, as a dean, having to bring disciples to another academy for cultivation, For an arrogant person like Flender, how could his heart truly be at ease? Even if he never showed it, how could his inner world be serene? Meng Shen Ji nodded to Flender. Dean Flender, be at ease. We three guarantee you that we will provide these children with the best cultivation facilities here, to the best of our ability. The best cultivation facilities, and anything else you ask for. Even if in the future they don't want to fight on behalf of Heaven Do Imperial Academy, it still doesn't matter. Just imagine, one day, as they stand at the summit of the Spirit Master World, if their records would hold the name Heaven Do Imperial Academy, this is already enough to satisfy us. Flender stood up, bowing courteously to the three Spirit Douluo. Thank you, seniors. Watching this scene, Grandmaster finally showed a smile, inwardly saying, Flender, oh, Flender, if I hadn't already clearly grasped the natures of these three board members, would I have brought you here? Whatever happened in the past, in my heart, you are still my big brother. Of course I hope to see you spend your later years comfortably. At this moment, a long groan attracted everyone's attention. Just in time to see Tang San spit out a dense white mist, no longer as faint as before, as if it had congealed. Breathing out from the mouth, again inhaling through the nose, the red tone of Tang San's skin had already completely vanished, as had the swelling. It seemed he had entirely recovered to normal. As the white mist was completely inhaled, Tang San gradually opened his eyes. In this moment, to everyone in the board hall they seemed like a pair of cold stars. Even though that bright cold light only flickered for a moment and was gone, everyone saw that Tang San was different from before. 8 spider lances withdrew into Tang San's back in practically the space of a breath. Compared to before, this speed was several times faster. Unfortunately, the clothes on his back were shredded. This was perhaps the one fault of 8 spider lances. Someone as frugal as Tang San still regretted the loss of the clothes. Tang San noticed everyone's attention on him, and first calmly bowed to the 3 spirit Douluo, and without saying anything, with a guileless expression walked over behind Grandmaster. Right now, Tang San basically didn't have the mental capacity to spare for any chatter. His entire mind was focused on his body. When that shattering sound appeared, he was under enormous spirit power pressure and naturally didn't know what had changed. But right now, after sobering, he immediately recognized the difference. First of all, his spirit power had leapt up by 1 rank, and even more importantly, all his physical attributes seemed to have increased. That increase wasn't something 1 rank of spirit power could result in. Basically, it was because under that tremendous pressure he had broken open an energy channel. This energy channel didn't just let 8 spirit lances perfectly fuse with him, but at the same time, it caused a not insignificant change in his body. Spirit power at 34th rank, yet his physical attributes should surpass the level of the 40th rank. Regarding the breaking open of this energy channel, perhaps even Grandmaster would be unable to explain the reason why, but Tang San understood it very clearly on his own. Because, that was what was described in the mysterious Heaven treasure record as the 8 extraordinary meridians. Explicitly stated in mysterious Heaven treasure record was that if the 8 extraordinary meridians connected into one path, mysterious Heaven skill would benefit greatly, and one of mysterious Heaven skill's great criteria for completion, besides reaching the 8th tier, was to break open all 8 extraordinary meridians. Described in mysterious Heaven treasure record was that a person who had connected the 8 extraordinary meridians, whether in heaven or hell, would be omnipotent. Although these were just simple words, it amply proved just how enormous the effect might be from completely breaking open the 8 extraordinary meridians. Tang San's understanding of the 8 extraordinary meridians came from the mysterious Heaven treasure record, where it was described extremely detailed. The 4 limbs had the 8 acupuncture points broken sequence: back ravine, inner pass, outer pass, shining sea, extending vessel, yellow emperor, and foot overlooking tiers separately leading to the 8 conception, governing, yin linking, yin heel, yang heel, penetrating, and girdle meridians. Meaning these acupuncture points separately could connect the head, face, and torso to the 8 extraordinary meridians. Volume 9. Golden Iron Triangle. Chapter 60. Title Douluo. Title: Poison. Yellow Emperor penetrating meridian of stomach, heart and chest. Inner Parsian link alike below the head. Overlooking tears gall passes girdling meridian. Yang link vision meeting outer pass. Back ravine governing meridian of inner eye and neck. Extending vessel yang heel also connects the channels. Broken sequence conception meridian relates to lungs. Yin heel shining sea of diaphragm and throat. Each meridian corresponded to some significant place on the human body. Although the 8 extraordinary meridians were innately connected, this connection was very minute, unable to channel internal strength. But in Tang San's previous world, practically all internal strength experts broke open the 8 extraordinary meridians to increase their capacity. Among the 8 extraordinary meridians, the most important were the conception meridian, governing meridian, penetrating meridian and girdling meridian channels. And Tang San determined by position that what his mysterious heaven skill broke through under that enormous pressure should be the penetrating meridian. The penetrating meridian paralleled the heart meridian. Although its effect wasn't as obvious as the conception and governing meridians, the benefits it gave to Tang San was difficult to put into words. Like how younger spirit masters cultivated more easily, breaking through these 8 extraordinary meridians was also easier. The younger one was, as one aged, the body would be influenced by the outside world, and the energy channels within the body would also become more and more rigid, and the difficulty of connecting them would naturally grow. Breaking through the penetrating meridian now would no doubt be of enormous benefit to Tang San's later cultivation. Even now he already had a somewhat reserved, exuberant feeling. Of course, this was all a coincidence. Grandmaster hoped he would fuse with the external spirit bone under these conditions, but how would he have known Tang San would connect an energy channel, obtaining even greater benefits? The Tiandu Imperial Academy party was naturally headed by Meng Shenji, and on the Shrek Academy's side was naturally Flender. As a result of the favorable terms Meng Shenji offered, the two's discussion became more and more congenial, even giving a feeling of long-standing familiarity. Meng Shenji said, "Then this matter is settled. Teacher Qin, we'll trouble you to arrange it." Qin Ming hastily nodded in agreement. His gaze constantly followed Tang San. Besides surprise, it was even more out of envy. They were both geniuses, but his brilliance was already eclipsed by Tang San's external spirit bone. Just as the Shrek Academy group was taking their leave to return to their own courtyard, footsteps suddenly echoed outside, seemingly from 2 people. "Isn't Principal Meng Shenji here?" Before they arrived, a voice already rose from outside. This person's voice was resonant, filled with confidence. But the voice gave a somewhat arrogant impression. Although it wasn't overbearing, it still didn't have the intent of being polite. Meng Shenji looked distracted a moment. He naturally heard who the owner of this voice was, and wondered in his heart, why would he come? Hurriedly standing up, walking out to greet him, ordering the 2 other board members to follow behind him. The expressions of the 2 seemed to change slightly. Very quickly, 3 people entered from outside. The Shrek Academy group had met one of them before. It was that youth Dai Mabai had sent flying with a kick below the mountain yesterday. Right now that youth stood on the left with an arrogant expression, his eyes revealing an intense resentment. Walking in the middle was a magnificently dressed old man. This person wore a large yellow gown, crowded with embroidered brocade that didn't seem messy in the least. Grizzled hair neatly combed back, medium height, a slightly heavy frame, and a majestic appearance. Only his eyes seemed a bit small, breaking the harmonious feeling of the facial features. Standing upright with his hands clasped behind his back, even though he was confronting the 3 Spirit Douluo board members, he wasn't the slightest bit deferential, but rather had an attitude of looking down on them. Seeing these 3 appear, the Shrek Academy group first felt surprise. Not because of their appearance, but rather because of the 3rd person on the right. Previously, whether it was the weakest of the Shrek 7 devils Ning Rongrong, or Shrek Academy's Dean Flender, they had all heard only 2 sets of footsteps, but 3 people had entered. What did this indicate? The person standing on the magnificently dressed old man's right side was another old man, but distinctly different from the magnificently dressed old man. This person was slim like a spear, both hair and beard unexpectedly deep green, with a pair of eyes even more like flickering beryl. Everyone had a kind of illusory feeling towards this man, as if he was a mirage. He followed at the side of the magnificently dressed man, seemingly without moving his feet. This man's face was expressionless, or perhaps it should be said his expression was completely rigid. Sunken cheeks, the green hair disheveled, wearing only simple and unadorned grey robes, forming a clear-cut contrast to the magnificently dressed man at his side. This man's hands were both tucked into his sleeves. On entering the hall he simply closed his eyes, without even glancing at anyone. "Lord Prince, why have you come?" Meng Shen-ji stepped forward and bowed slightly, saluting the magnificently dressed old man. But whether it was him or the other two spirit Douluo, their gazes were all fixed on that green-haired man. This was a person even they couldn't see the limits of. The magnificently dressed old man smiled calmly, his gaze sweeping across the Shrek Academy group. Zhu Beng at his side hastily said something in a low voice next to the magnificently dressed man's ear. The magnificently dressed old man then said, "What? Does the board members have visitors? Won't you introduce us?" Meng Shen-ji frowned minutely. Even though this was a prince, with their position in the spirit master world, even a prince shouldn't be so unreasonable. But this person was the person in charge of the Heaven Du Imperial Academy. They couldn't offend him. Meng Shen-ji smiled slightly, inviting the three into the hall. By now, the Shrek Academy group had all already stood up. Meng Shen-ji said, "Your Highness, I will introduce you. This is Shrek Academy's Dean, Flender, here this time to consult on collaborating on a matter. Dean Flender, this is His Highness the Heaven Du Empire's Prince Zhu Xing. The Imperial Academy is currently under His Highness administration." Although Flender wasn't too interested in this arrogant prince, he still slightly bowed. "Greetings, Your Highness." Prince Zhu Xing didn't even glance at him, only coldly said, "Shrek Academy? I don't think I've ever heard of it. It should be some mediocre school. Principal Meng Shen-ji, how could you allow people of such unknown origin into our academy?" On hearing this, the Shrek Academy group couldn't help but be fiercely indignant. Zhao Wuji at Flender's side was about to flare up, but was hindered by Flender. Meng Shen-ji's expression changed. "Your Highness, such words can't be used. Shrek Academy has fostered countless outstanding spirit masters. Our academy's teacher Qin was also from Shrek Academy. This time Dean Flender and all the Shrek Academy teachers are willing to teach at our institution. They are all rare talents." When Prince Zhu Xing heard Qin Ming came from the Shrek Academy, his expression was somewhat embarrassed. His gaze shifting towards Flender, he said, "Principal Meng Shen-ji, according to academy regulations, new teachers should be subject to review. I haven't been informed whether these people have already passed." Ji Lin at Meng Shen-ji's side couldn't help saying, "The Shrek Academy teachers all have Heaven Du level strength. There's no need for review. Your Highness, don't tell me you came here today for this matter." His words were already clearly somewhat blunt. Prince Si Xing snorted. The Heaven Du Imperial Academy is a pillar of the Empire. As one of the pillars of the Empire, the teachers all have enormous influence on the students. I cannot wish for the Academy to hire some arrogant and despotic seniors. Zhu Beng told me that yesterday as these guests just arrived at the Academy they beat him up. Zhu Beng is the fourth Imperial Prince, representing the dignity of the Imperial family. How could he be insulted so? At this Meng Shen-ji's trio clearly understood why Prince Zhu Xing was here. Seeing the rancor on fourth Prince Zhu Beng's face as he stared rigidly at Dai Mabai, the three couldn't help but sigh inwardly. It was just because of brain-dead nobles like these that the Heaven Du Imperial Academy was unable to foster more talents. Flender calmly said, "Then how does Your Highness want to settle this matter? I don't know if you have asked His Highness Prince Zhu Beng just why he was hit. Spirit Master was the grandest vocation on the Douluo continent, but a high-level Spirit Master nobility basically wouldn't enter their eyes." Flender himself was an untamable senior. If it wasn't for the sake of finding a home for these old brothers who had followed him for years, he would have flared up long ago when Prince Zhu Xing first insulted the Shrek Academy. Zhu Xing snorted coldly. We always treat talent well. Since everyone has come to look for our Heaven Du Imperial Academy's cooperation, yesterday Zhu Beng was also the first to make a mistake. Let's forget this matter. However, at this, his gaze swept across Flender and the Shrek Academy teachers. You must prove to me that you are indeed people of talent. Zhu Beng, standing at Prince Zhu Xing's side, by now already had a pleased expression. Flender forcefully suppressed his anger. Fine, then how does the Lord Prince wish for us to prove it? Prince Zhu Xing smiled calmly, saying, very simple, you only have to hold out against Mr. Dugu for 5 minutes, and we will at once recognize you as talents. All treatment will be most favorable. If not, like what Zhu Beng said yesterday, immediately get out of here. You, Dai Mabai's anger stirred, wanting to dash forward. But at this moment, the green-haired old man at Prince Zhu Xing's side opened his eyes. His gaze fell on Dai Mabai. The moment he opened his eyes, it seemed like the temperature in the entire hall dropped at once. Those deep green eyes didn't hold the slightest bit of life, displaying ice-cold and something grim and nefarious. Dai Mabai trembled all over with a muffled groan, then quietly fell motionless on the ground. A blue vine shot out like lightning, twisting around Dai Mabai's waist, forcefully pulling him back. Precisely the actions of third seed spirit Douluo Dalu. Your Highness, you mustn't be too excessive, Meng Shen Ji said angrily. Prince Zhu Xing said calmly, how am I excessive? Principal Meng Shen Ji, you mustn't forget, the academy belongs to the imperial household. As the direct supervisor, I have the authority to decide on personnel matters. If you disagree, you can complain to His Majesty. But until His Majesty says otherwise, I am still in charge here. You, Meng Shen Ji was speechless with anger. Blue light flickered, enveloping Dai Mabai within. Wrapped up in the blue light, Dai Mabai woke up, his eyes filled with terrified blankness. In that split second he had only felt his body go cold, without knowing the cause. Let alone attacking, he basically didn't have the slightest opportunity to resist. Prince Zhu Xing turned to his right. Unlike the total arrogance when he confronted the 3 board members and the Shrek Academy group, to this green-haired old man at his side, he was unexpectedly extremely respectful. Mr. Dugu, please. The green-haired old man looked at the Shrek Academy people. Use strength to prove yourselves, come at me together. While speaking, a layer of intense green light suddenly released from his body. Immediately following, rings rose from below one after another. But his own body didn't show any change. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 black. Altogether 9 spirit rings spiraled up, their brilliant light making the entire hall dazzling. The Shrek Academy group's faces changed, the 3 board members' complexions also changed. Who would have thought that this seemingly slovenly green-haired old man would actually be one of the peak powers on the current continent, a spirit power over 90th rank title Douluo. Let alone the Shrek Academy's people, even the 3 80th level spirit Douluo, nobody had the confidence to confront him. Spirit Douluo and title Douluo, even though it was only a difference of 1 title, their actual strength was as far apart as heaven and earth. The higher the level, the higher the gap from rank to rank. Although that green-haired old man's last 5 spirit rings were all black, everyone knew that the later the spirit ring, the closer they got to 100,000 years. By a conservative estimate, his last spirit ring should be from an over 70,000-year spirit beast. From the atmosphere around that green-haired old man could be felt he was a beast spirit titled Douluo, but just now when he released his spirit his body hadn't changed at all. This proved even more how terrifying he was. This degree of spirit control was only possible at the later stages of the title Douluo level. With the distinguished name Dugu, and the fishy oppressive smell. If I'm not mistaken, your distinguished self should be the poison titled Senior Poison Douluo Dugu Bo. Grandmaster stepped forward, obstructing the Shrek Academy teachers whose eyes burned with fury, speaking to the green-haired old man. Ha 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 ha. The green-haired old man laughed. I didn't expect there would actually be someone who remembered me. Correct. I'm Douluo. Since you know my name, will you still not get lost? Grandmaster's expression was still calm. He unexpectedly nodded earnestly. Fine, we'll get lost. Flender, we're getting lost. Having said this, he raised a hand to pull Flender away. Flender tore himself free, throwing off Grandmaster's hand, a cold harsh light in his eyes. Xiao Gang, I can't let Shrek suffer disgrace like this. Grandmaster angrily said, even if you don't fear death, don't tell me you think everyone wants to follow you to die together. Titled Douluo, how are you capable of contending against that? If you were also a titled Douluo, you could also casually have people get lost. But you're not. Even if we old creatures didn't fear death, don't tell me you would let the children run off to be destroyed together with you. Poison Douluo is the most malicious under heaven. Do you think his attack would only be directed at you alone? Having said this, Grandmaster turned to the three Spirit Douluo board members. I'm sorry, seniors. Let's drop the matter from today on. But we will never forget the enthusiastic feelings of the seniors' reception. I'm sure we'll meet again. Wait a moment. A strict light appeared in Meng Shenji's eyes, staring fixedly at that poisoned Douluo with 9 glittering spirit rings. Douluo, let us 3 old fellows experience your poison. Heaven Star Furnace Spirit Douluo Bai Baoshan and Sky Blue Vine Spirit Douluo Ji Lin separately stepped up behind Meng Shenji. The 3 simultaneously released a tyrannical pressure. Meng Shenji's body in a flash became unreal, the entire person transforming into a pitch-black empty shadow, with black mist rising from below. 2 yellow, 3 purple and 3 black, 8 spirit rings blossomed simultaneously. From the spirit rings could be seen the gap between both sides. Poison Douluo Douluo's 5th spirit ring was already on the 10,000-year level, but Meng Shenji's 5th spirit ring was still 1,000-year one. In Heaven Star Furnace Spirit Douluo Bai Baoshan's palm appeared an ancient stove shining with golden light. On the surface were altogether 7 silver stars, releasing flickering light. Spirit rings of the same quality as Meng Shenji glittered, congealing into a thick atmosphere covering his whole body. Over Sky Blue Vine Spirit Douluo Ji Lin appeared only 1 sky blue vine, but that vine's color sparkled like emerald. Faint blue gas released from him, pervading his whole body. Right now, on the Shrek Academy's side, everyone's expressions were very unsightly. However, nobody noticed. Right now Xiao Wu standing in the back was doing her utmost to restrain herself, her complexion already somewhat pale. She'd started doing this ever since Prince Zhu Xing's trio had entered, just that nobody had noticed her. Unconsciously both her eyes had already turned red. With a confrontation between 3 Spirit Douluo and 1 titled Douluo, the air in the Board of Education Hall became extremely heavy. The 3 Spirit Douluo shielded the Shrek Academy group behind them, and Poison Douluo Douluo also automatically protected Prince Zhu Xing and 4th Prince Zhu Beng from the assault of the pressure. In a moment, the great battle was on the verge of starting. Even though Douluo Yan's strength was matchless, confronting 3 Spirit Douluo together he still didn't dare be careless. His dark green eyes finally revealed a somewhat serious stare. Board members, what are you doing? Prince Zhu Xing's angry voice hid his fear. Right now he was inwardly already regretful. These 3 board members were after all 80th level powers, in no small measure valued by the Heaven Du Emperor. On the off chance they were truly struck down, he wouldn't be able to take responsibility for the fallout. Prince Zhu Xing, you obstinately cling to your course. After today, we 3 elders will definitely impeach you before His Majesty, and have him render judgment. Meng Shenji was truly furious. The Shrek Academy group gave him a very good impression, especially that Tang San who had made him extremely pleasantly surprised. Right now watching this chance for enormous benefit to the Heaven Du Imperial Academy about to turn into soap bubbles, how could he not be angry? In age, even the titled Douluo Douluo wasn't older than him, Right now this board principal was burning with agitation, no longer paying any attention to the consequences. To him, this situation was no longer about the Shrek Academy staying or leaving, it related even more to the honor of them three spirit Douluo. Of course, Tang San's previous demonstration also served as a significant catalyst. Let it be. Flender sighed inwardly, slowly unclenching his fist, the eyes hidden behind the crystal glasses once again becoming calm. He lightly saluted the three spirit Douluo. I didn't expect it coming here this time, but we've brought the seniors this kind of trouble. Flender is ashamed. Since Heaven Do Imperial Academy is unwilling to keep us, how can we ask for it? Even if it didn't work out today, perhaps I cannot be free from worries. Seniors, Flender will come visit some at some later time. Flender had long ago lost the impulsiveness of youth, and he naturally understood an arm couldn't match a leg in strength. Since that Prince Zhu Xing was already hostile, he wouldn't stay behind to cause more trouble. Even though Heaven Do Imperial Academy was nice, it wasn't a place to retire. This time they'd also made a lot of profit in the Great Spirit Arena, sufficient to return to reopen the Shrek Academy and support it for a very long time. Dean Flender, Meng Shen Ji somewhat anxiously called out. Flender didn't turn back, leading the Shrek Academy people towards the outside with big strides. As the Shrek Seven Devils passed that fourth Prince Zhu Beng, they clearly saw the look of schadenfreude in his eyes. But that Prince Zhu Xing's head was raised high, as if he didn't even see the Flender's party passing. The three spirit Douluo's faces all changed between red and white, clearly on the extreme point of anger, but right now what could they do? This place still belonged to the Heaven Do Empire's imperial family. At this moment, a charming young lady stepped in from outside, Grandpa. On entering, she at once threw herself at Douluo Bo standing there with 9 glittering spirit rings. As the cold-faced Douluo Bo saw her, his expression immediately softened, holding out his hands to pull the young lady into a hug, laughing loudly, Yan Yan, good, you've grown a bit stronger again. The Shrek Seven Devils were familiar with this young lady. It was precisely the control system spirit master of the Emperor team they fought last time in Suotuo Great Spirit Arena, Douluo Yan. When they saw Douluo Yan throw herself into her grandfather's bosom, she naturally saw them as well. When her gaze fell on Tang San, her face clearly changed as she hugged Douluo Bo's neck and whispered a few sentences into his ear. When Qin Ming came back, he told them the Shrek Seven Devils' ages to provoke them to train. Douluo Yan asked in great detail what Tang San was like to clearly see who the aggressive guy who beat her was. However, she did not expect to see her grandfather. Thus, with the Shrek Seven Devils present, although Tang San was very ordinary, his figure and expression in his eyes did not change and she immediately recognized him. When Douluo Bo raised his head again, the entire Shrek Academy delegation had already walked out of the hall. His gaze though rested briefly on Tang San's back as a small smile appeared on his mouth. Apparently what Douluo Yan had said made her break out into a smile, like a spoiled child in Douluo Bo's bosom. I'm sorry board members, I'm afraid that I also have to leave the academy. It was Qin Ming who said this. At the moment, his face was full of indignation and was feeling extremely insulted. Not having the strength to erase this disgrace was an extremely painful matter. No matter what, he could not stay here. Regardless of the treatment here, in his heart, it could not compare to his origin, Shrek Academy. The three board members became alarmed simultaneously, even that Prince Zhu Xing staring with a blank expression. Qin Ming's position at the Imperial Academy was actually much greater than what Flender and the others had imagined. It could be said that it was second only to the 3 members of the board. After all, his current position, within the Spirit Master Hall records, he was one of the youngest to reach the 60th rank. As he absolutely was a rare genius, the 3 board members were absolutely sure that at 60 years old, Qin Ming would become a titled Douluo. A titled Douluo appearing wasn't just of importance to an academy, it would be an extremely important event even to the whole Heaven Do Empire. At this moment, Prince Zhu Xing finally had some regret in his heart and his eyebrows furrowed. However, at this time, he naturally couldn't say anything, otherwise wouldn't it be a slap to his own face? Meng Shenji immediately stepped forward to stop Qin Ming. Teacher Qin, how could this be? We will carefully talk about this situation later. We will definitely bring this up to His Majesty and let His Majesty fairly judge this situation. Qin Ming shook his head. His eyes already expressed a determined look as he indifferently said, "This is Heaven Do Imperial Academy, in the end belonging to the Imperial family. Since the Imperial family loathes my fellow Shrek Academy members, how can I have any face if I stay here? Members of the board, I appreciate your kindness. In those years, when I came here, I came alone. Today I leave alone. Members of the board, please take care of yourselves. These past years that you have taken care of me have already been engraved in my heart. I will definitely return the favor. Goodbye." He didn't give the 3 board members the opportunity to stop him as he used his spirit power to leave. His figure became nothing more than a flash, already chasing after the footsteps everyone from Shrek Academy as they left the Board of Education Hall. Meng Shenji fiercely stamped his foot. Facing Prince Zhu Xing, he bellowed, "Your Highness, you have screwed things up. Do you know what kind of talent those people just now had? You. He had promised Shrek Academy to not divulge Tang San's external spirit bone secret. Now he had lost his temper, the spirit power on his body unsteadily undulating. Prince Zhu Xing indifferently said, "Things up to now have not been good. If you 3 wish to complain to His Majesty, I have nothing to say. Goodbye." Finished, he took Zhu Beng and walked out. But he did not call out for Douluo Dalu. Douluo Dalu also didn't wish to leave immediately. Looking at the 3 members of the board, he said, "A group of spirit masters that have yet to reach the 80th level, yet you still want him to stay. You 3 really are old." Meng Shenji angrily said, "You don't understand anything. You are correct in that they have yet to reach the 80th level, but do you know how big their potential is? Perhaps in a decade, within that group of people there will be many titled Douluo." Prince Zhu Xing's actions today were pushing the empire towards an abyss. Don't tell me you believe that the incident today won't cause them to bear grudges. Douluo Dalu snorted, "This is unrelated to me. Yan, Grandpa has to leave. You stay here and study hard." Prince Zhu Xing took Zhu Beng away from the board hall. While walking, it was clear that he was troubled. "Zhu Beng, this time you gave your uncle many problems. I'm afraid that those 3 old fellows will not leave the matter alone." Zhu Beng smiled, "Uncle, thank you very much for today. Did you see how aggressive Shrek Academy was? If they stayed at the academy, sooner or later they would have caused trouble." Prince Zhu Xing indifferently said, "Forget it. Things have not been beneficial so far. You must remember, if your father the Emperor asks, you must say that they attacked you first. If it wasn't in order to weaken your older brother, do you think I would rashly insult so many spirit masters? Zhu Beng, you must work hard. If not, in the future even if I wish to help you, I'm afraid I will not be able to. Those 3 board members are extremely important to your father the Emperor. It's a pity that they are all your brother's people." As if it was a play, within was contained multiple deep meanings. How would this Prince Zhu Xing be an impulsive person? Don't think I translated this right. After going through all that, at the base of the mountain, no one in Shrek Academy's party said anything. Qin Ming quickly followed them, also only walking behind Flender, not saying a word. But from his ashen face, one could see how poor his current mood was. Help! Reaching the bottom of the mountain, they once again saw the clear lake at the foot of the mountain. However, this time, no one in Shrek Academy's party was in the mood to appreciate the scenery. "Dean, it would be better if we made Shrek Academy big again." The one who said this was Dai Mabai. Flender stopped walking, raised his head towards the sky. Despite the glare of the sun, his heart was feeling cold. Dai Mabai said, "You always refuse to receive help from the students, I can understand. However, right now, even if we were struggling for breath, we still can't just drop this subject. Be at ease, I will not use money from my home to help the school. Us 7 are Shrek 7 devils, and naturally should help our Shrek Academy. We can go participate in spirit fight competitions. As we are a gold-level spirit fighter team, we can absolutely make enough profit for the school. If you let us represent the school, there will be a day when we make Heaven Do Imperial Academy regret their actions today. Dai Mabai was Shrek 7 Devils' oldest, and once he spoke those words, the rest of Shrek 7 Devils all nodded their heads, expressing approval. Grandmaster sighed, and grabbed Flender's shoulder. Flender, I'm sorry. This is my fault. Flender shook his head. This has nothing to do with you. It is our unceasing bad luck. I don't know why, but right now I don't even have the slightest feeling of punishing the school. Perhaps it's because I've grown tired over the years. Help? Zhao Wuji asked. Then what should we do now? Ning Rongrong said, it would be better to go to my family's castle. From here our 7 treasure glazed tiles castle isn't far. Flender shook his head. Forget it. I don't feel like relying on other people's charity. Rongrong, thank you for your good intentions. Ning Rongrong pressed on. Dean, don't worry, my family is in no way like Heaven Do Academy. As you know, our 7 treasure glazed tiles school is very welcoming towards any spirit master. If anyone says anything to you, I definitely will not let them go. Even if it is a poison Douluo. Heng, wait until I go tell Uncle Jian and Uncle Gu to come out and beat his teeth out. Flender's eyes gradually softened. He knew that his decision right now didn't just impact himself, but also these Shrek Academy teachers and students. After collecting his thoughts, he once again took on the spirit of a dean. How about this? Since we've already come this far, we can try resting at that Heaven Do Empire capital. As for what we do next, we can talk about it later. Just then, Qin Ming suddenly stepped forward and with a Pu Tong sound, he kneeled in front of Flender. Dean, this is my fault, punish me. Flender hastily pulled him up. Qin Ming, what are you doing? How could I not know what your feelings towards Shrek Academy are? For you to follow us is enough proof that you hold Shrek Academy in the most important regard. It should be us saying sorry for ruining your future prospects. Qin Ming bitterly laughed. Future prospects? If it was not for the teaching I received, how would I have a future? I have hands and feet, so don't tell me that I won't be able to survive if I leave Heaven Do Imperial Academy. I will bring everyone to Heaven Do City. What Junior Dai said earlier I approve of. I really do believe in reopening Shrek Academy again. Dean, Shrek Academy will forever be my home, and if one of us does not wish for that, they can leave. If you really are tired, we can help you rebuild the school. Flender nodded his head looking at the other teachers. Let's go. We will go to Heaven Do City and look for a place to stay first. From Heaven Do Imperial Academy to Heaven Do City really was close. A group of people carrying heavy hearts after walking for a short period of time had already reached this Heaven Do Empire capital. From a distance, it was already possible to see the flag fluttering on top of the city, and because this empire was the most influential on the continent, it was also one of the most flourishing cities. The city walls were 100 meters tall and made of the hardest granite. At the top and bottom, fully armored sentries equipped with pikes were standing guard and patrolling the wall. Their bodies emitted an austere aura that allowed one to see their heroic spirit. Volume 9. Golden Iron Triangle. Chapter 61. Golden Iron Triangle's Last Corner. The city gate was more than 10 meters tall, and also 10 meters wide, enough for 6 riders to pass side by side. To the sides were also 2 secondary gates, still 5 meters high and wide. Pedestrians could only pass through the secondary gates. The central great gate was closed tightly. As the Shrek Academy group had reached the city gates, and were just about to enter the city, to the side they spotted an enormous announcement. Recruiting. Blue Tyrant Advanced Spirit Master Academy, because of its expansion, is presently recruiting the following staff: 10 40th ranked or higher spirit ancestors. Higher spirit power has priority, favorable terms of employment. Seeing this information, Flender, somewhat astonished, said, "This academy is advertising at the city gate. How expensive." By now his mood had already recovered somewhat, and his miserly instincts reappeared. Qin Ming was the most familiar with Heaven Du Empire's capital, and hurriedly said, "To be able to open up an advanced Spirit Master Academy within Heaven Du City requires a certain background. Although I don't know the history of this Blue Tyrant Academy, but in the last All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Grand Competition in the Heaven Du Capital's preliminary circuit, it was this academy that knocked out one of Heaven Du Imperial Academy's 2 competing teams. However, this year that Blue Tyrant Academy class should have already graduated, and this year the Heaven Du Imperial Academy's Emperor team is a lot more powerful than the last Advanced Spirit Master Academy Grand Competition. I expect this time they don't have a chance." Flender said, "How big is this Blue Tyrant Academy?" Qin Ming said, "Approximately 1/3 of Heaven Du Imperial Academy. Although smaller in size, being situated in Heaven Du City, their expenses shouldn't be less than Heaven Du Imperial Academy, only without the relation to the imperial household. I've heard this academy's education is exceptionally strict, moreover with the characteristic of only accepting commoner students. They refuse all nobles. If it didn't have a history, it would be impossible to gain a foothold within Heaven Du City." Flender's eyes displayed a vengeful elation. "Who says the Blue Tyrant Academy won't be able to contend against Heaven Du Imperial Academy in this Spirit Master Academy Grand Competition? Very soon, they will." Qin Ming stared blankly. "Dean, you're saying?" Flender sighed in admiration, saying, "On the way here I've thought it over carefully. From the start our Shrek Academy hasn't had any Advanced Spirit Master Academy qualifications. Reopening it is easier said than done. The requirements are far too many. I'm already so old, and moreover I can't let these old brothers suffer for my illusory ideals. Since this Blue Tyrant Academy is pretty good, we'll go take a look. Besides, not taking revenge for this day's disgrace isn't the style of me, Flender. What do you say?" The last words were directed at the other teachers and the Shrek 7 devils. Zhao Wuji chuckled, saying, "You're the boss. You've decided. Why ask us?" The Shrek 7 devils spoke in unison. "We'll all rely on the dean's decision." Flender smiled faintly, saying, "If this place won't there's still enough time to go back and reopen the academy. Let's go, we'll take a look first." Nobody noticed that deep in Flender's eyes flickered a cunning light. Following the address on the announcement, everyone entered Heaven Du City. With Qin Ming to guide them, there was no need to ask directions. Passing through streets and winding alleys, they very quickly reached their destination. Heaven Du City was extremely bustling. The streets were all paved with blue bricks. Every street was as wide as Suotuo City's main thoroughfare, and the scale of the city could only be described as grand. Blue Tyrant Academy's gatehouse was surprisingly more or less the same as Heaven Du City's city gate. Although a lot thinner, that gate entrance was indeed 10 meters tall. Although the gatehouse was in beautifully carved white marble, it was still very imposing. On top of the gatehouse were 6 words in gold letters: Blue Tyrant Advanced Spirit Master Academy. Just as they reached the Blue Tyrant Academy's gate, Qin Ming immediately found a place for receiving visitors to the side. Above was written, "Recruitment Office. Are you all here to enroll at the academy?" In charge of receiving visitors was a more than 40 years old middle-aged spirit master. His question was mainly aimed at the Shrek 7 devils. After all, these children were only teenagers. Flender said, "No, the ones here to enlist are us. These children are our disciples. If we can successfully accept the job offer here, our disciples would also wish to study at the academy." The admittance teacher said, "Enrolling students still have to pass the examination. Like this, all spirit masters first take our test. If you are able to become academy teachers, I think it will also be possible to accommodate your disciples. After all, right now is still the new student enrollment period. Moreover, your disciples are a bit young. Generally speaking, at an advanced spirit master academy, even if they were outstanding spirit masters, new students were generally 16 to 18 years old. More commonly 20. Tang San's group didn't seem to be 18. A test is no problem. Where is it?" The admittance teacher had already been here for several days, but the number of spirit masters coming to sign up was very small. After all, Spirit Master Academy's treatment of teachers couldn't compare to the great clans. That was the best path for high-level spirit masters. And with 7 prospective teachers coming at once, how could he be indifferent? Hastily he said, "I'll bring you to take the test." Walking into the Blue Tyrant Academy, the feeling it gave had no few differences with Heaven Do Imperial Academy, although this place didn't have the beautiful mountain scenery of Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Everything gave people the feeling of a kind of exceptional atmosphere. A spacious path led directly inside. To either side was a forest, and reaching the end one could see a more than 200 meters in diameter field, surrounded by 3-story buildings. The admittance teacher introduced everyone. Inside these 3-story buildings were mimicry area cultivation places, student dorms, and the teaching facilities. If saying Heaven Do Imperial Academy was founded on a mountain, then this Blue Tyrant Academy was founded in the middle of a forest. Because around the school buildings, the remaining space was all forest. Reportedly, this was the biggest green area in all of Heaven Do City. Able to have such a large forest inside the city, as Qin Ming said, who dared say this Blue Tyrant Academy lacked background? The admittance teacher brought everyone straight to a sharp-roofed building. This building appeared the most stable of all the academy buildings. Just inside was a spacious hall. The inside unexpectedly wasn't split into rooms. Light came through large windows all around, making this place exceedingly bright. The floor was all granite, and the walls were simply painted white, without any decorations. The admittance teacher had everyone wait here, while he departed. Not long after, altogether 3 spirit masters entered from outside. These 3 also seemed around 40 years old, ordinary appearance, with nothing extraordinary about them. On their faces were identical strict expressions. The 3 walking into the hall stopped, the person in the lead saying, "Everyone taking the Spirit Master examination, please do so one by one." "Who is first?" Everyone looked at Flender, and Flender with a slight smile waved his hand at Qin Ming, saying, "Little Ming, you go first." Qin Ming nodded, walking forward, asking the 3 spirit masters, "If I may ask, how will this be conducted?" The front spirit master said, "Please release your spirit, as long as you've reached the 40th level, then, in a fight with one of us 3, if you can last for 10 minutes you are eligible." Spirit power rank was naturally the most important. As long as the spirit was released, the level and attributes of the spirit master could be determined at a glance. As for fighting, it was a test in real combat. After all, as a teacher, if one didn't have plentiful combat experience, one was clearly undesirable. Fine. Qin Ming had choked down his anger from today's business at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy, and without moderating his pressure the least bit, he directly released his spirit. Instantly, the atmosphere in the entire hall seemed to grow heavy. The 3 Blue Tyrant Academy spirit masters in front of Qin Ming simultaneously swayed. Their expression couldn't help being aghast. These 3 spirit masters in charge of examination were over 50th ranked Spirit King level spirit masters. The counterparts' spirit suppressing their reactions just by being released could only prove that this young spirit master was more powerful than them. Immediately following, around Qin Ming appeared a yellow flame, and with a deep roar, the muscles under the clothes began to swell, the originally loose clothing growing tight. His eyes simultaneously grew yellow. Altogether 6 spirit rings rose from below, 2 yellow, 3 purple, 1 black. Although it wasn't an ideal combination, 6 spirit rings appearing at once still shocked the 3 Blue Tyrant Academy teachers enormously. Qin Ming said in a low voice, 62nd ranked Inferno Grey Wolf Battle Spirit Emperor, Qin Ming, Power Attack System. Regarding spirits, wolves generally had cold attributes. This kind of fire attribute Wolf Qin Ming had was classified as a variant spirit, extremely rare. Just as Flender remarked, Shrek Academy only accepted monsters. If Qin Ming wasn't a monster, then how could he originally have entered Shrek? 62nd rank. The three testing spirit masters couldn't help but recoil 2 steps before Qin Ming's bright yellow flames, dodging the point. Qin Ming raised his right hand, making an inviting gesture. Which of you will advise me? Advise? There wasn't a damn thing to advise. A 50th level confronting a 60th level power attack system battle spirit master, and a variant spirit at that. Was that still a fight? There's no need for a combat test. The Academy stipulates that spirit masters exceeding the 60th rank are exempt from further tests. That lead Blue Tyrant Academy Spirit Master Examiner inwardly wiped his sweat, thinking that today could be difficult to deal with. Qin Ming withdrew his spirit and restrained the imposing manner, everything returning to normal. The Blue Tyrant Academy Examiner on the left couldn't help asking, if I may be so presumptuous as to ask, how old are you this year? Qin Ming calmly said, 34. With the appearance of this simple number, in front of Qin Ming 3 pairs of staring eyes widened. 34, 62nd rank. What concept was this? Let alone meeting, they had never even heard of anything like it. Flender said, since 60th rank and over don't require additional examination, then there's no need for us to waste time. Brothers, spirit rings. Apart from Grandmaster, 5 Shrek Academy teachers simultaneously released spirits sufficient to awe common spirit masters. In an instant, 2 spirit emperors, 3 spirit sages, a pile of 33 spirit rings, appeared in front of the Blue Tyrant Academy examiners. 63rd ranked Dragon Pattern Staff Tool Spirit Emperor, Li Yu Song, Power Attack System. 66th ranked Star Luo Chess Tool Spirit Emperor, Lu Ji Bin, Control System. 71st ranked Sweet Pea Tool Spirit Sage, Shao Xin, Food System. 76th ranked Vigorous Vajra Bear Battle Spirit Sage, Zhao Wuji, Power Attack System. 78th ranked Owl Battle Spirit Sage, Flender, Agility Attack System. From the weakest to strongest, the Shrek Academy 5, including the 2 deans, one after another announced their strength and names. The 3 examiners were now already completely lifeless. Altogether 7 spirit masters had appeared, seemingly applying for the advertised teaching positions, and apart from one who hadn't revealed his strength, the remaining 6 were actually all powers above the 60th rank. The clutter of spirit rings in front of them already made their eyes widen. If it wasn't for Flender and the others meticulously making sure they didn't release too much spirit power, perhaps the 3 Blue Tyrant Academy teachers wouldn't be able to stand steadily. Can we? Flender's voice was infused with spirit power vibrations, rousing the 3 extremely startled spirit masters. Of course you can. Seniors, please withdraw your spirits. The 3 clearly became deferential. On seeing this scene, Tang San standing among the Shrek 7 devils silently thought to himself, in this world it's sure enough strength that speaks loudest. Before when a titled Douluo made an appearance at Heaven Do Imperial Academy, the suppressed Shrek Academy teachers were left without options. Even Dean Flender in the end showed restraint and didn't fight. Right now the Shrek Academy teachers' strength shook the Blue Tyrant Academy. Strength, sure enough, was the most important. Drawing a deep breath, that Blue Tyrant Academy lead teacher deferentially said, my humble name is Yin Shu. 54th ranked Power Attack System Spirit Master. I am unable to evaluate all the seniors level. As it's like this, I'll bring you to meet our Dean, who will determine everyone's level and treatment. Everyone was Spirit Masters over 60th rank. This already didn't hold any meaning to the examiners. Most important was to get him to stay. This Yin Shu was entrusted with the heavy responsibility of recruiting teachers and was clearly an astute person. Immediately he thought that he must first show these formidable spirit masters the sincerity of Blue Tyrant Academy. Let's go then. Flender smiled slightly. The Shrek Academy teachers were already in a much better mood. After all, being admired was always far more comfortable than being disdained. Although this place wasn't equal to Heaven Do Imperial Academy's environment, it still had its merits. Led by Yin Shu's trio of Blue Tyrant Academy teachers, exiting the sharp-roofed building, they directly followed a small path behind the academy. Very quickly they entered the forest surrounding the main campus. Grandmaster, puzzled, asked, "Your dean isn't at the campus?" Yin Shu said, "The dean normally isn't in the academy, preferring the quiet, living alone in the forest. The academy's everyday affairs are all handled by the teachers, only major matters require instruction from the dean." Mentioning the dean, this Yin Shu's eyes revealed a sincere reverence, stemming entirely from the heart. "So it's like that." Grandmaster didn't ask anything else, but for some reason his heart constantly felt uneasy. After walking for about 10 minutes, as everyone advanced through the fresh and clean atmosphere of the forest, suddenly an indistinct singing voice was heard from far ahead. The voice was soft and pleasant, with a lingering hidden bitterness, mournful, making any listener sad. The melody swung back and forth, indeed incomparably gentle and beautiful. "On nights I cannot sleep, what can I use as anesthesia? How can I endure so many feelings? It's not that I don't want you with me, but some things you cannot know. I gave up my precautions and loneliness followed. I want a space for myself, where I can properly consider our tomorrow. If love isn't sweet like we imagined, then let me shoulder all the blame. My heart is too confused and I need a bit of space. If you understand, then let me leave for now. My heart is too confused, so I dare not wish to love again. I want to cry, but how to cry and yet not cry? My heart is too confused and I need a bit of space. Has heaven forgotten to make plans for me? My heart is too confused and I'm afraid of love's betrayal. I want to cry as if a lost child. A lost child." The singing voice faded sorrowfully. Flender and Grandmaster, walking in front, had both stopped walking when the singing started, and right now Flender's expression appeared somewhat strange, while Grandmaster's cheeks were streaming with tears. That melodious woman's voice slowly reached them. "You even wrote this song for me, Xiao Gang. Do you remember? My heart is too confused. Where are you really?" Seeing Flender and Grandmaster's strange expressions, everyone couldn't help but pause. Suddenly Grandmaster turned around, about to run back along the path before Flender grabbed his shoulder. Flender shouted in a low voice, "Xiao Gang, how long do you intend to run away? We're already here. Do you truly have the heart not to see her?" "Flender, did you already know she was here? Blue Tyrant Academy, Blue Tyrant Academy, Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon, I should have realized it earlier." Flender made a helpless gesture. "How could I have known she'd be here? It's just a coincidence." "Let's go." Grandmaster displayed a struggling expression. At this moment, the pain in his heart was no less than the pain Tang San felt when he absorbed the man-faced demon spider's spirit ring. Meeting again today after running for 20 years, and moreover without any time to prepare his heart, what kind of feeling was that? Flender's hand on Grandmaster's shoulder tightened. In his heart he was somewhat sorrowful. "Sister Long, I've brought him to you. This time you have to say something to catch him. You can't let him leave again." Just as Grandmaster conjectured, Flender really knew she was at this Blue Tyrant Academy. Originally, when he chose to come to Heaven Do Imperial Academy, part of the reason was that she was in Heaven Do City. Flender had never forgotten what had happened between the three of them, and he had long ago decided that even if he had to deceive Grandmaster this time, he'd still once again play the middleman for the two. What did other people's opinion matter? Of the others, besides the guesses of Zhao Wuji, who was most familiar with Flender, as well as Tang San, who was closest to Grandmaster, nobody understood what was going on and could only follow behind, walking forward. Continuing several hundred meters forward, the forest gradually thinned. On a particularly thick and solid tree hung a sign, saying, "Restricted area, please do not enter." Past this great tree, the scenery immediately changed. There was a small lake, from side to side only 50 meters. A 3 meters wide brook flowed quietly into the water from the trees on the other side, and again back out, maintaining fresh water in what should have been considered a pool. Next to the pool was a simple thatched cottage built from wooden boards and reeds, in complete harmony with its surroundings. Within the fence surrounding the thatched cottage were all kinds of flowers, falling over each other in their eagerness to bloom, a multicolored beauty. In the midst of all those flowers stood a woman, holding a kettle and watering the plants. Perhaps because she heard the footsteps, her gaze unconsciously rose in the direction the Shrek Academy group came from. She frowned minutely, perhaps because they were disturbing the tranquility here. However, as her gaze passed the 3 guiding Blue Tyrant Academy teachers and fell on Flender and Grandmaster behind them, her whole body stiffened, her hand relaxed, the kettle falling to the ground with a thump. Right now she had already completely forgotten the kettle spilling over. She was a beautiful woman seemingly in her 30s, dressed in a simple blue-green dress that wasn't able to disguise her charming figure. A blue-green scarf was wrapped over her head, a somewhat pale face below, her facial features delicate, appearance like a painting. Although her big black eyes were currently lifeless, they still had spirit. Under the dress were those undisguisable high peaks, rippling waves surging, a mature ample figure that ordinary young ladies couldn't hope for. Yin Shu and the other Blue Tyrant Academy Spirit Masters also guessed that Flender and Grandmaster were familiar with the Dean from their previous conversation, but right now still acting according to etiquette, they quickly stepped forward to the fence, Yin Shu respectfully speaking to the beautiful woman, Dean. Several Spirit Masters have arrived for the teaching positions. Among them are 6 whose strength surpass 60th ranked spirit power. We are unable to make an assessment, so we respectfully ask you to judge. Figure flickering, the beautiful woman was already outside the fence. The Shrek 7 devils didn't even see how she moved from inside. The other Spirit Masters also started. What is called one simple clue reveals the general trend. From this woman's one simple movement, it could already be seen that her strength was formidable. Co gang, is it really you? I'm not dreaming. As the previously gentle and beautiful voice asked these questions, right now her voice was trembling fiercely, tears uncontrollably flowing down her pale face, extremely moved. Grandmaster's eyes were thoroughly red as he looked at this woman he had yearned for night and day, but not dared meet, his lips shuddering, for a long time unable to say a word. It was still Flender who sighed, our full golden iron triangle finally meets again today. Sister Erlong, we haven't met for so many years, are you well? At the same time he sighed inwardly, looking at her, in her eyes was still only Co gang. At this the beautiful woman's eyes focused, her gaze turning to Flender, difficult to describe emotions in her eyes. Boss Fu, it's been so many years, but you still look the same. Flender smiled wryly, I've aged, but you're still as graceful as before. Come, I'll introduce you. These are all my Shrek Academy teachers and students. We accidentally saw the recruitment announcement for your academy. I didn't expect it would be your domain, and we came here looking for work. Skipping Grandmaster, Flender separately introduced the other Shrek Academy teachers to the beautiful woman, finally saying to everyone, this is Lu Erlong, perhaps you've heard of her before. She traveled with me and Grandmaster when we wandered the Spirit Master world, the last corner of our golden iron triangle. Lu Erlong. This name sounded somewhat monstrous. Everyone from Shrek Academy didn't dare slight her and one by one stepped forward to salute her. Lu Erlong put her feelings in order, wiping the tears from her eyes, and politely returned the greetings. Sister Erlong, aren't you going to ask us inside? Flender said with a smile. Meeting Lu Erlong again, it wasn't just Grandmaster's heart that flickered, how couldn't he as well? However, he could only secretly bury this flickering deep inside. Lu Erlong smiled wryly. Boss Fu, does it look to you that my thatched hut can hold so many people? What's the matter with all of you? Since when were you reduced to this kind of state? If anyone else had said that, perhaps Flender would have immediately become hostile. But before the question asked by the person who had once captivated him as well, he only laughed wryly, simply recounting their circumstances up till now. As she heard Flender say the Shrek Academy party had been driven away from Heaven Do Imperial Academy, in Lu Erlong's eyes flashed a densely baleful air. Good, well done Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Boss Fu, don't say anything. Isn't my place yours? This Blue Tyrant Academy is completely in my charge. Let's do it like this. Everyone stay here, from now on this will be your home. Flender glanced at the walking corpse-like Grandmaster at his side, jokingly saying, "The salary we demand is high, can you support it?" Lu Erlong smiled slightly, saying, "Boss Fu, you're wrong. It's not a question of whether I can support it, but a question of whether you can. You are the boss of our Golden Iron Triangle, so from now on, this academy is yours. Tomorrow I'll convene a general assembly of students and staff to announce it. At the same time, the name of the academy will be changed to Shrek. Let me also benefit from the glory of your Shrek Academy." Although Flender always knew Lu Erlong was a woman more straightforward than most men, he still hadn't expected her to so easily present him with an academy on this scale, and for a moment he was unable to respond. On the other side, the 3 Blue Tyrant Academy teachers hearing this were even more lifeless. "Teacher Yin Shu, I'll trouble you to go announce a general assembly of students and staff tomorrow. These are all friends I haven't met for many years, so today we'll reminisce about old times. Have the dining hall prepare a sumptuous banquet in the elegant room on the 2nd floor, I have to receive them." "Yes, Dean." Although they didn't quite understand the relationship between Dean Lu Erlong and these people, this clearly wasn't something Yin Shu's trio should ask about, and they hurried back along the path. "Xiao Gang, are you planning to never speak to me?" Lu Erlong's gaze once again switched to Grandmaster. The emotions in her eyes hadn't faded, but her voice no longer trembled, rather sounded somewhat lonely. Looking at the beautiful woman as delicate as a flower in front of him, Grandmaster's heart shuddered, with some difficulty opening his mouth several times, but again discovering he was unable to say anything. Lu Erlong gazed deeply at Grandmaster. "Xiao Gang, this time I won't let you once again slip out of my hands." Flender smiling said, "Sister Erlong, even if it was a coincidence this time, I've delivered him to you. If you let him run away this time, I'm afraid you'll never see him again. Time really passes quickly. In the blink of an eye it's been 20 years, a whole 20 years. Drawing a deep breath, Lu Erlong forced her gaze away from Grandmaster, saying to the Shrek party, "Everyone come with me first. I'll introduce Blue Tyrant Academy to you. No, it should be called Shrek Academy. This forest is the biggest in Heaven Do City, a resource fully belonging to the Academy. Although the facilities here aren't as good as at Heaven Do Imperial Academy, they're still not too lacking. It's already been 10 years since the founding of the Academy, since we only accept commoner Spirit Masters, consequently the quality of the Spirit Masters' spirits isn't as high as ordinary Advanced Spirit Master Academies. But it's also because our students all come from common backgrounds that they're much more hardworking in cultivation than those from great clans or influential noble families. In the last Spirit Master Grand Competition we prevailed over a lot of powerful enemies, finally entering the top 8. That achievement was only a bit short of Heaven Do Imperial Academy. Their second team was even eliminated by us." After a pause, Lu Erlong continued, "As for the question of teachers and students in the future, that's Boss Fu's problem. I'm basically unqualified to be a dean, and now I can finally give it up. Heaven Do Imperial Academy unexpectedly dared drive you away. Humph, I'd like to have a look at their reasons. Let's see in next year's Advanced Spirit Master Academy Grand Competition." Lu Erlong gave everyone a somewhat peculiar impression. There was a gap between her words and appearance. If she changed into luxurious clothing she would appear a high-class lady, but the words she used were brimming with belligerence. To Zhao Wuji, who had some understanding of the original Golden Iron Triangle, this appearing somewhat flirtatious beauty was remarkable. Originally in the Golden Iron Triangle, Flender was called the Flying Corner, Grandmaster was called the Directing Corner, and this Lu Erlong was known as the Slaughtering Corner. Her character was vengeful, her temperament exceedingly fiery. It was only in front of Grandmaster and Flender that she was somewhat moderate. At once, Lu Erlong gave everyone a detailed introduction to Blue Tyrant Academy, and it was even better than they had imagined. Although the entire academy only had 200 students, it was universally praised throughout the Heaven Do Empire. Even Spirit Masters from noble backgrounds were forced to recognize Blue Tyrant Academy's contribution to the Spirit Master world. This could be called a cradle for commoner Spirit Masters. Although it had only been open for 10 years, it had already produced a lot of spirit masters with considerable strength. Even Spirit Hall wished to cooperate with Blue Tyrant Academy, but Lu Erlong had refused everyone. Even though the facilities here weren't equal to Heaven Du Imperial Academy, they were still far better than at Shrek Academy. Good. It should be about time. Let's go eat and chat. Lu Erlong seemed to have already forgotten Grandmaster. Afterwards she amply displayed her straightforward nature, bringing the Shrek Academy party to eat lunch, resolving everyone's doubts one by one. Then she again brought everyone to tour the Blue Tyrant Academy, and finally brought him to the Academy's teachers' dorms to arrange quarters for everyone. As for the question of salary and so on, Lu Erlong directly pushed them onto Flender. Anyway, from tomorrow onwards this academy would change to Shrek, no longer Blue Tyrant. Within this day, going from the cheerful early morning, to the humiliation in the late morning, and once again finally to a glimmer of hope, to everyone in the Shrek party this was really somewhat excessive. At Flender's request, supper wasn't as sumptuous as lunch had been, and everyone very quickly finished eating. Flender said, "Today has been tiring for everyone, later go and rest a bit early. Starting from tomorrow, I'm afraid we'll be busy." Having just arrived in a new environment, whether it was the teachers or students, they all needed to adjust. To say nothing of Lu Erlong already pushing the entire academy on Flender. Regarding this, Flender wasn't polite with Lu Erlong. He knew that his sister Erlong did it on purpose. Despite knowing that this was perhaps in Lu Erlong's heart a compensation for him, he was still unable to refuse, just like he had always been unable to refuse her requests. "Little San, join me for a walk." Grandmaster didn't dare meet Lu Erlong's cauterizing gaze, pushing away from the table, calling for Tang San and walking out. "Oh," Tang San responded, hurriedly standing up and immediately following Grandmaster outside. Lu Erlong acted as if she didn't see Grandmaster leave, picking up a napkin from the table and wiping her mouth. Flender's face showed a smile. "You're not afraid he'll run again?" Lu Erlong looked at Flender, equally smiling, but her smile was somewhat pondering. "Boss Fu, do you believe he will still have the chance to run after meeting me again? This time, even if I have to tie him up, I'll keep him at my side." Leaving the dining hall, Grandmaster directly headed towards the forest. He'd always liked plants, and especially the quiet in the forest. Volume 9, Golden Iron Triangle, Chapter 62. Golden Iron Triangle's Past. Tang San followed behind Grandmaster without asking anything, only quietly accompanying his teacher. He could sense Grandmaster's complex feelings. At this moment, letting his teacher calm down a bit should be the best option. Walking into the forest, the temperature clearly dropped compared to outside, the fresh and cool atmosphere rousing Grandmaster's spirit, and it seemed even his mood eased a bit. Stopping, Grandmaster turned to Tang San, calmly saying, "Little San, aren't you very curious about my relationship with Erlong? Why it is like this right now, why I would evade her for 20 years. Tang San nodded. Grandmaster sighed. "Let me tell you a story. 20 years ago, a youth born from a prestigious clan, because of a variant spirit, couldn't inherit the school's spirit and was exiled. In order to prove himself, he studied everything about spirit masters, researching even deeper meanings, hoping to one day be able to gain the approval of the world. As he traveled outside, he met a like-minded young spirit master, and the two decided to travel the spirit master world together. One day, when they hunted spirit beasts in a spirit beast forest, they encountered a beautiful young lady. The young lady was alone, and her lively and straightforward nature very quickly attracted these two youths. The three became fast friends, and two companions increased to 3. With the passing of time, the two youths both grew to like that young lady with the fire dragon spirit, but because they thought of each other as brothers, they were unwilling to state it clearly. Especially that youth, unable to possess strength because of his variant spirit, buried this affection even deeper in his heart. As a result of the three unexpectedly discovering that between the three of them, they were able to use a kind of formidable spirit fusion ability. Relying on this formidable strength, they gradually became known in the Spirit Master world as the Golden Iron Triangle. Here Grandmaster sighed once again. Things like feelings accumulate over time, and the deeper they are buried, sometimes they will instead grow even more intense. As the three grew older, their feelings also grew more profound. At last one day, that powerful youth was unable to hold back the torment of his feelings and confessed them to that young lady. But the result was extremely unexpected to the two youths. The young lady always knew the two youths cared for her, and it was precisely because of this that she was afraid to speak out her own choice and hurt the other. Now confronted with the strong youth's confession, she was finally unable to conceal it further and called it out in front of both youths. She told them that the one she liked was the youth whose strength was inferior due to a variant spirit, but through perseverance and great effort gained superb theoretical understanding. You should already have guessed that the young lady was Erlong, and the two youths were me and Flender. Even now I still clearly remember Flender's disappointed expression that time, and still the sound of my own heartbeat. At that time I suddenly felt a happiness I had never had in my whole life. However, me and Erlong were both unwilling to harm Flender. For a while there was silence between the three of us. Like that, a long time passed with a stifling mood over us. Finally, Flender stood up. He was the oldest of us and said that he wanted me to be his brother, and Erlong to be his brother's wife. Tang San couldn't help saying, "Dean Flender really is a good person. Perhaps this is the best conclusion." Grandmaster nodded. For a lifetime I will never forget Flender's words. He said that he had already lost his love, and he absolutely didn't want to lose his brother and sister. He blessed us from his heart. Tang San, puzzled, said, "Since it was like this, you and Erlong should have been able to marry, then why would?" Grandmaster smiled wryly. "If everything had gone smoothly, there wouldn't be a story. Perhaps our children would already be older than you. But I don't know if it was heaven's joke on us, but everything we had was destroyed." I remember that day very clearly. The stars were especially bright in the night sky. With Flender presiding for us, me and Erlong were finally married. Even if at that time we didn't have anything, didn't have the blessings of family or friends, didn't have a grand ceremony, at that time we all felt incomparably happy. As long as we were able to be together with those we loved, what did other people matter? The three of us were drinking together, Flender intending to say goodbye to us and go out to travel on his own. Suddenly several people appeared, and these were people I was familiar with. The person in the lead was my uncle, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Clan's present second master, Yu Luomian. At that time his arrival made me extremely startled, but since that day was my day of exaltation, and since he was family, me and Erlong could still relate to this second uncle, and we immediately happily invited him into our house. Here Grandmaster's mood clearly became agitated. However, who would have thought that my second uncle wasn't looking for me? His target was actually Erlong. "What? Why?" Tang San, startled, asked. Grandmaster continued, "Before we married, as me, Erlong and Flender traveled the continent, we never asked each other about our backgrounds. Those were our private matters. Since I wasn't allowed to speak about my family, Flender was born from a poor household, and Erlong never spontaneously mentioned it. My second uncle's purpose in finding us was unexpectedly to recognize blood relations. Erlong was actually his illegitimate daughter." Tang San stared wide-eyed with shock. The will of heaven toyed with people. No wonder teacher would choose to leave. All of this was truly too unfair to him. When Erlong heard me address him as second uncle, her face already paled. As I asked her, not daring to believe it, seeing her nod, I felt as if I'd been struck by thunder from a clear sky. How I hadn't expected, my affectionate wife was actually my cousin. Teardrops, escaping control, rolled down Grandmaster's face. Even if 20 years had passed, that scene would never fade from his mind. The joy of marrying his beloved, abruptly becoming great grief. What suffering was that? His voice choked with emotion. Grandmaster's expression was hard to make out. At that time, second uncle, looking at our clothing, clearly understood what was going on. His first words were, "How can you marry this useless trash?" Originally I'd always thought second uncle was good to me. not looking at me like the others of the clan. Until that time when I learned my mistake, in fact, even he thought of me as trash. I later learned that Erlong was born from my second uncle and a prostitute. Because of Erlong's mother's background, he didn't dare bring her back home. When Erlong left to travel the world, her mother had already passed away from illness. She was always brought up by second uncle in the outer territories. He also let her follow matrilineally. Her mother chose the name Erlong after her father. My second uncle's infant name was precisely Erlong. But, teacher, if senior Erlong is your patrilineal cousin, then her spirit should be inherited from your clan, Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon. Don't tell me that senior Erlong's spirit is actually also. Grandmaster nodded. Yes, Erlong also has a variant spirit, only hers didn't become weak. Although it didn't become formidable, in the end it's still extremely strong. Thunder variation has similarities to flame. This is the origin of her fire dragon spirit. It was this kind of coincidence that formed this tragedy between us. Then, I ran like mad. At that time I wanted to die. I already had no one else. Erlong wanted to chase after me, but second uncle stopped her. If it wasn't for Flender catching up to me, stopping me from suicide, perhaps there wouldn't be a Grandmaster now. Tang San didn't say anything else. Right now even he was inundated in the sorrowful world of Grandmaster's heart. Neither of them knew that not far behind him another person equally had a face streaming with tears, helplessly gazing attentively in their direction. What could I do? Although afterwards I lost the desire to die, at that time Erlong was my whole life. You've also seen that I'm not considered handsome or strong, but she rejected Flender, who was stronger than me, and chose me. I loved her so, but spouse changed into little sister. That kind of pain is unimaginable to most people. In the end, discouraged, I could only choose to run. I didn't let Flender follow, only quietly leaving on my own. Afterwards, I heard from Flender that Erlong and my second uncle had a big falling out after returning to the clan, searching for me everywhere like mad. I wanted to see her so much, but I couldn't. I couldn't destroy her reputation. Siblings marrying isn't tolerated by the world. Even if I didn't care, Erlong is a woman, how could I let her endure that? Even more, what my second uncle said was right, I'm only trash, useless trash, that's all. Erlong and me together, I don't even have the ability to protect her. She shouldn't be with me. Year after year passed, I didn't even dare listen to rumors about Erlong. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to keep from going to find her. In my confusion, I could only throw my heart and soul into spirit research. Only when I met you could I reveal my heart again. I entrusted my heart to you. These years have been a bit easier. I know Flender definitely knew Erlong was here. He's not a careless person. If he didn't know in advance, after being provoked at Heaven Do Imperial Academy just before, how would he have again gone looking for an academy? Only I thought nothing of it at the time. Meeting Erlong again can only bring me more pain. Erlong is far stronger than me. This time, even if I wanted to escape this vortex of pain, it would perhaps already be impossible for me. Tang San looked at Grandmaster, the edges of his eyes already somewhat moist. Yes, Heaven was unjust to teacher. Even if he had already been deprived of the powerful spirit he should have inherited, unexpectedly even his marriage had to be destroyed. Teacher, are worldly opinions really so important? Who says you are trash? To me, you are the most formidable spirit master. Knowledge is power. Who dares say they are stronger than you in spirit lore? Nobody. Teacher, you are the strongest. Aunt Erlong waited for you for so many years without choosing someone else. How deep are her feelings for you? Running away like this again will only bring more suffering to the two of you. Even if you truly care about worldly opinions, you can still bring her to run away along with you. Grandmaster painfully shook his head. No, that's too unfair to Erlong. Little San, loving someone doesn't necessarily mean insisting on having them. I want even more for her to be able to live cheerfully, happily. Tang San had already forgotten he was a student. Seeing Grandmaster's melancholy, he couldn't help but defiantly say, how will running away like this make Aunt Erlong happy? If she was happy, Would she sing that kind of sorrowful song? Would she weep from one look at you? She didn't even dare use words to try you out, afraid to upset you. Teacher, your heart is too weak. What are worldly opinions? Aunt Erlong is fearless, but you're afraid. You should be together with her, bravely going out to confront all this, cutting open all barriers to walk together. Whatever your family, whatever others think, you being together is no mistake. Even if your bloodlines are close, is there truly no room for this kind of match? Teacher, you're not only afraid Aunt Erlong will suffer if she's together with you, at the same time you don't dare accept this reality, you have an inferiority complex. Grandmaster looked stupidly at Tang San, lips moving but already speechless. Although he and Flender were equally proud, he who possessed an inferior spirit, deep in his heart always had an inferiority complex. Flender and Erlong had never dared say what they really thought, but the agitated Tang San had hit the key point. He's right. Why must you have an inferiority complex? What if 10 million people call you trash? As long as I, Lu Erlong, believe you are the strongest, it's enough. Xiao Gang, do you truly not understand? If I cared about the family relation between us, would I always search for you like this? Would I always be in such pain? Lu Erlong slowly walked out in the distance behind Xiao Gang and Tang San, teardrops constantly rolling down her face, looking at Grandmaster, firmly approaching step by step with a brilliantly tender countenance. This time, Grandmaster at last didn't once again try to escape Lu Erlong's gaze. Watching her approach step by step, Grandmaster's heartbeat clearly sped up. The obstruction in his heart gradually fractured under the surges of emotion. The protective barrier of 20 years was already unable to further suppress the love deep in his heart. Tang San very quietly retreated, gradually moving into the forest. He knew that at this moment nobody should disturb them. Inwardly he wished the best for Grandmaster. How would he not have seen the loneliness his teacher often displayed? Now the source had finally been found. If it could be dispelled, letting Grandmaster and Lu Erlong truly walk together, then it would be the best conclusion for all sides. The forest was dark and tranquil, and Tang San was in no hurry to return, only quietly walking in the woods. For some reason, hearing the story of Grandmaster and Lu Erlong, his mind suddenly recalled Xiao Wu. His state of mind wasn't that of a 13-year-old child, but that of a middle-aged man. Xiao Wu was his little sister. What was really her place in his heart? Ever since getting to know Xiao Wu, Tang San deep inside pondered on this question for the first time. If Grandmaster and Lu Erlong's story had been his and Xiao Wu's, how would he have settled it? Tang San discovered that right now he was somewhat perplexed, at a loss. The surrounding atmosphere suddenly chilled somewhat, making Tang San shiver. He couldn't help but frown in bafflement. With his spirit power breaking through the 30th rank, his mysterious heaven skill had already reached the 4th tier. Heat and cold shouldn't affect him, much less in the summer, so how did he feel cold? But at this moment Tang San suddenly stopped in shock. 3 meters in front of him a man had appeared at some unknown time. A green man. Green hair, green eyes, green fingernails, eyes as ice cold and vicious as a viper. This person who suddenly appeared in front of Tang San was someone he had met during the day, that titled Douluo with the title of Poison, Douluo. Tang San almost reflexively released his spirit, but in the next instant Douluo had already arrived in front of him, without being seen to move. Tang San only felt a spell of dizziness, then he didn't feel anything at all. But at this moment a spirit power fluctuation roused the not distant Erlong, who had just melted into Grandmaster's arms. Who? Lu Erlong's eyes flashed, sharply moving out of Grandmaster's embrace, her gaze shifting in the direction of that spirit power fluctuation. She clearly felt that while the spirit power fluctuation wasn't strong, it contained a terrifying energy. Figure flickering, she instantly covered Grandmaster behind her. Grandmaster was first startled. Then immediately following his expression changed greatly. Not good. It might be related to Little San. Quickly go look. Lu Erlong very naturally grabbed Grandmaster's hand, abruptly accelerating. relying on spirit power to swiftly reach the location. But besides a chill in the air, they didn't find any clues. Lu Erlong pushed her spirit power to search with all her strength, but she was still unable to find Tang San again. Grandmaster promptly said, "Go, let's first find Flender. This cold air is somewhat familiar. If it's that person, I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with." Although Grandmaster wasn't strong, his powers of observation and ability to make snap judgments were far beyond that of ordinary people. This trace of cold air immediately made him recall meeting Douluo Dalu during the day at Heaven Du Imperial Academy, as well as Douluo Dalu later meeting his granddaughter Jade Phosphor Serpent Spirit Master Douluo Yan. Head spinning, as Tang San awoke from unconsciousness, he discovered his surroundings were completely painted black. There were only 2 points of green light that glittered eerily in the darkness. Silently urging mysterious heaven skill, spirit power gradually condensed within Tang San's body, his strength once again returning, but he still didn't move. Grandmaster had taught him that the more dangerous the circumstances, the more you had to keep calm. He absolutely couldn't let himself end up in a crisis because of acting blindly without thinking. Having woken up, there's no need keep pretending. Are you really only 13? Your mentality resembles someone more experienced. A hoarse voice came from the side. Along with his eyes adapting to the darkness, Tang San, with the help of the 2 points of dim light, could make out Douluo Dalu sitting not far to his side, and that those 2 points of green light were actually Douluo Dalu's eyes. Turning over and sitting up, Tang San still didn't speak up, only coldly looking at Douluo Dalu. His heart was already ice cold. No need to ask, he already knew Douluo Dalu's reason for kidnapping him. Clearly it was Douluo Yan's revenge. Remaining in the hands of this poison titled Douluo, how could there still be a good ending? "Kid, you're called Tang San." Douluo Dalu leaned on the stone wall behind him, calmly asking. "Right," Tang San replied very simply. He naturally wasn't resigned to waiting for death, and sitting there he was quietly amassing his spirit power. Although he knew that a 30th level spirit master confronting a more than 90th ranked titled Douluo basically didn't have a chance, if he didn't at least struggle, how could he be resigned to the result? Green light flickered in Douluo Dalu's eyes. "I heard, you broke my granddaughter's 3rd spirit ring, and even used poison to restrain her. How did you dissolve her snake venom? Just alcohol isn't enough," Tang San calmly said. "An old freak like you is known as the poison Douluo. Don't tell me you don't even understand the effect of realga on snake venom. Realga mixed into alcohol can completely show the effects of realga, further adding flame for heat. Even though your granddaughter's 3rd spirit ring is very poisonous, it's still unable to resist all that." Douluo Dalu suddenly made a strange chuckle. How many years has it been since someone dared talk to me like that? "Kid, aren't you afraid to die? You actually dare doubt an old man's poison? Don't you know that even other titled Douluo would change color when talking about my poison?" Tang San snorted disdainfully. "Your poison? It's just trash, that's all. What did you say?" Green light suddenly set off in Douluo Dalu's eyes. With just a flick of his hand, Tang San was flung away by an irresistibly powerful force, heavily smashing into the rock wall behind him and almost losing consciousness again from the pain. "Kid, if you dare wag your tongue like that in front of me again, even if your poison interests me, I'll still immediately kill you. My poison is trash. I can instantly affect every living creature within a kilometer, not even a blade of grass would grow. If I want to kill you, I don't even need to use my hands, I can kill you with poison at once. In this world, there is still no spirit master who has been able to compare to me in the poison attribute. You actually dare doubt my poison?" Tang San struggled to stand up, resisting the pain and straightening his back. "I want to wag my tongue in front of you. As far as I'm concerned, what's even the point of that? Your poison is indeed ferocious, but it's still trash. A poisoner uses poison on his enemies, but you've even poisoned yourself. Don't tell me your poison isn't trash." Douluo Dalu looked distracted a moment. He waved his right hand and the entire surrounding cavern immediately lit up with the dark green flames. Under the illumination of the green fire, Tang San clearly saw that he was in a round 1,000 square meter cave. Douluo was dressed the same as during the day, right now simply standing 10 meters in front of him. Truly laughable. I would poison myself. This year I'm 78, and I've always only poisoned others, and still never been poisoned by others. Douluo looked coldly at Tang San. Strangely, this time he didn't attack. Tang San snorted disdainfully. Really? Then let me ask you, when the sky is overcast and raining, isn't there an ache over 2 of your ribs, moreover one that gradually grows stronger, flaring up around noon and midnight? In your current condition, it should persist for 2 hours or more each time. Also, late every night, approximately around midnight, on top of your head and your heart should have a pricking pain like a pincushion. Your whole body spasming for at least an hour. That kind of pain that makes you wish you were dead doesn't need my description. If you're not poisoned, then would you have symptoms like these? You're not just poisoned, the poison has even entered your bone marrow. But what baffles me is how you still haven't died. The poison within you isn't something that can be suppressed with spirit power. How do you know? Douluo no longer held back his shock, speaking subconsciously. Tang San described it as if he'd seen it himself, and this could be said to be Douluo's biggest secret. Even his closest granddaughter didn't know, so how couldn't he be startled when now hearing it from Tang San's mouth? Killing intent flared in his eyes, seeming to pierce Tang San. Untitled Douluo's strength really was too powerful. The murderous aura released from Douluo was essentially the same as a strike at Tang San's chest. Tang San made a retching sound, spouting a mouthful of blood, retreating 3 steps before with difficulty standing firm. Blue-silver grass abruptly appeared under the pressure of Douluo's killing intent. Even his external spirit bone 8 spider lances immediately unfolded from his back, releasing its terrifying energy to protect Tang San. That's the way to do it. Douluo had already calmed down. He believed that by relying on his already substantial murderous aura, hitting and killing a mere 30th ranked spirit master was easily done. He had killed people to silence them more times than he could remember. But he hadn't expected Tang San would actually be able to stand up to his attack. Even though he spit blood, he didn't seem to have suffered any serious injury. This kind of physique clearly wasn't something a 30th level spirit master should possess. Let me see. This is the spirit that injured my granddaughter. Douluo's figure flickered, already appearing in front of Tang San as he raised a hand to grab him. Blue-silver grass acted automatically. Tang San's first spirit ring abruptly flared, and the first spirit ability, binding, activated. Tenacious blue-silver grass frantically wound around Douluo with all of Tang San's strength, in just a moment wrapping him up entirely. But terrifyingly, those blue-silver grass that just now wound about Douluo suddenly melted away like ice and snow. Sure enough, they were melting, like snow in a fire, without even pausing. Even to the extent that they didn't even slow Douluo's rising hand. The next moment, Douluo's large hand had already grabbed Tang San's shoulder. Douluo's hand was firm, holding onto the shoulder like an iron hoop. The 8 spider lances on Tang San's back thrust out practically simultaneously, with sharp sounds of splitting the air piercing at Douluo. Purple light broke out, toxin already activating. Yi, Douluo was surprised. At his level of strength, without even meeting the attack, his aura alone was enough to sense that the 8 spider lances' attack power was far beyond that of blue-silver grass. Green light spread from Douluo in a flash, but his spirit still couldn't be seen. 8 spider lances thrust at the green light, but could only cause 8 ripples in the dark green light and were unable to penetrate deeply. So it's like that. It was actually an external spirit bone. No wonder Yan Yan wasn't your match. Douluo had a flash of insight. Looking at Tang San's 8 spider lances, his eyes had an avaricious light. An ice-cold spirit power transmitted from the big hand on Tang San's shoulder. Tang San suddenly felt his whole body going numb, unable to amass his spirit power. That ice-cold stream spread through his body in a moment, just like he had fallen into an ice cellar. Despite Tang San's astonishing gifts, his strength outstanding among his peers, as well as battle experience and cool head, these were all useless before the absolute gap in strength. Before Douluo Dalu's spirit power, let alone resisting, right now he was even unable to move his little finger. Douluo Dalu clearly also didn't consider Tang San to be a threat. With a casual motion he threw him to the ground, somewhat disappointed, saying, "Unfortunately it's already fused. Otherwise this kid would have brought me a great gift." Douluo Dalu stared at Tang San with the green light burning in his eyes, as if he was looking at a rare treasure. The greedy light flickered in and out. "I have to admit that you are much stronger than my granddaughter, and even stronger than that kid Yu Tianheng. 13 years old, more than 30th ranked spirit power, external spirit bone, strong poison. It's a pity, truly a pity." Due to the immense gap in strength, Douluo Dalu didn't bother with sealing Tang San's spirit power, and Tang San once again struggled to crawl up from the floor, coldly saying, "I didn't expect I would actually die at the hands of an old freak using trash poison. It's a pity, truly a pity." Douluo Dalu's eyes emitted a viper-like ice-cold light. "Do you want me to kill you on the spot? As far as I'm concerned, killing you is as easy as crushing an ant. However, I won't be in a hurry to kill you. I'm a bit interested in a spirit bone from a man-faced demon spider. I'll drain all the poison from your spirit bone, and then I'll kill you slowly." Tang San's eyes displayed a strong unwillingness. He knew that he wouldn't have the slightest chance against this old freak even if he used his latest hidden weapons. Going up against an opponent like this was only possible if he could master the top 3 hidden weapons in Hidden Weapons 100 separation, otherwise the outcome would only be death. He was unwilling to see Tang Sect's knowledge die without even mastering it, and even more without transferring Tang Sect poison to this world. He was unwilling because he hadn't even had the chance to cultivate his second spirit. He was even more reluctant to leave this brightly colorful world than that time at Tang Sect. Since coming to this world he had at last come into contact with the outside, and gained far, far too many attachments. Seeing the unwillingness in Tang San's eyes, the old freak couldn't help but laugh heartily, not reconciled to it. "I've seen this kind of expression in countless eyes. What I like the most is strangling this kind of reluctance. Perhaps in a few more decades you truly would be able to surpass me. However, now you won't have the chance. You say my poison is trash, but you're still going to die by my hand." Tang San coolly said, "This is my greatest regret. If I had time, even without using my spirit, I could still threaten you. A trash poisoner like you basically isn't equal to farts. Not only did your own skills put you in misery, but you'll still leave behind calamity for later generations. Trash among trash. What did you say?" Douluo Dalu suddenly became agitated, unexpectedly extending an arm in an instant, grabbing Tang San's neck and pulling him close. This time Tang San didn't even resist at all, only looked coldly at Douluo Dalu. Even though it was difficult to even breathe, he still forced out the words, "You think you will have a good ending? Your symptoms will constantly worsen, even though I still don't know just how you've restrained this toxicity from flaring up. It's probably by eating some heavenly treasure material. But that heavenly treasure won't help you forever. Within a few years, even if you're not killed by poison, the torment of the poison backlash will still torture you to death. You'll die even more miserably than me." In Douluo Dalu's eyes flickered a gloomy, uncertain light. What Tang San had described were precisely all his greatest pains right now. Behind the formidable strength he endured torment beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Each time that torment made him unable to choose between life and death. That kind of pain basically couldn't be described with words. Volume 9. Golden Iron Triangle. Chapter 63. Ice and Fire Yin Yang Well. "You can dissolve the poison in my body." Douluo Dalu finally abandoned his face, unable to keep from asking. Tang San calmly said, "I won't dissolve it for you even if I can. You can only be even more miserable than me. Kill me. You might not fear your own death. After all, people living past 70 is already quite rare. Unfortunately, that delicate little granddaughter of yours might not be able to endure for as long as you. she might not have your strength of will to endure the growing torment. Her poison will only flare up even more violently than yours, since she was immersed in this kind of poison even from the womb. In order to live, Tang San began to make his last effort. Originally he had been somewhat suspicious ever since the first time he saw the Jade Phosphor Serpent Spirit Master Douluo Dalu, since according to what he knew, that kind of hair and eye color didn't exist in this world. Adding the Jade Phosphor Serpent poison Douluo Dalu later used, and he could confirm it to some extent today meeting Douluo Dalu's grandfather, this old freak in front of him, Tang San was even more certain. Douluo Dalu had admittedly inherited her grandfather's spirit and formidable poison, but at the same time she had inherited the side effects of that poison. Everything Tang San had said was fact, and even a proud and aloof senior like Douluo was unable to refute it. Relaxing his grip, Douluo let Tang San slide from his hand, coldly looking at him. How would you have me believe you can remove my poison? This time Tang San no longer tried to stand, sitting cross-legged on the spot. Do I need to prove it to you? In any case you still want to kill me. Someone like you is only a plague on the world while you live. If I helped you it would only be like taking the side of the villain. As Tang San said, Douluo didn't care much for his own life, but he couldn't not mind his granddaughter's future. Douluo Dalu had just turned 20 and still possessed a beautiful tomorrow. More than that, he already knew the taste of his close relatives dying from before. He absolutely didn't want the same thing to happen in front of him again. Douluo had toyed with poison all his life. He had no way out from the poison in his own body. He had still made countless attempts, but in return had only earned even greater suffering. The gloomy, uncertain expression gradually growing stronger, Douluo slowly clasped his hands behind his back. The tone of his words eased somewhat. I heard from Yan that you're called Tang San, right? A man of character doesn't change his name. Since I've never changed it, you're correct. Tang San calmly raised his head. Douluo snorted disdainfully. A 13-year-old baby is still a man of character. All right, I won't mince words. If you truly are able to remove my and my granddaughter's poison, then I will not only let you live, but I'll even promise you 3 favors. 3 favors that don't offend me. Tang San calmly said. You won't kill me. Like you said just now, why should I believe you? Killing me is as easy as lifting a finger for you. For someone like you, biting the hand that feeds you is no novel experience. Douluo stared blankly a moment. He hadn't expected that this seemingly teenaged youngster would actually be so unreasonable. He couldn't help angrily saying, then ask around for my reputation. Even if I've never considered myself a good person, I still put stock in my word. No one has ever dared belittle my honesty like this. Tang San closed his eyes. Those are just empty promises. I won't believe you unless you swear under poison. An ominous glint flickered in Douluo's eyes, almost unable to restrain his anger. But recalling his granddaughter, in the end he still forced down his temper. Fine, as long as you can prove you're able to remove my poison, I'll swear. The chance came at last. Tang San secretly loosed a breath, the jacket on his back drenched with sweat. Any person would fear death, and Tang San was no exception. He was even more unwilling to die a death without any value. Standing up once again, he withdrew 8 spider lances. How do you want me to prove it? Douluo restrained the ominous glint in his eyes. Prove your ability with poison is greater than mine, then you'll convince me. Subconsciously he didn't have one whit of trust in Tang San. After all, on the surface this youngster was just 13. How could a 13-year-old child compare with him who had been immersed in the poisoner's arts for decades? But Tang San had just described his condition, and still without missing any symptoms. Confronted with this opportunity, Douluo had no choice but to take it. Killing Tang San or not didn't really concern him. Even if Tang San was even more gifted, he would still require several decades to be able to threaten him. After so long he would probably have died from old age. What was there to fear? And if he truly was able to detoxify him, especially the hereditary toxicity affecting his granddaughter, that was most important to Douluo. Tang San spread his hands, helplessly saying, I don't have anything with me. How do I prove my ability with poison is better than yours? Douluo coldly said, like this. Here at my home grows a wide range of drugs. Whatever you need you can go find on your own. I'll give you 1 day. Within this day you create every kind of antidote yourself. After 1 day I'll use 3 kinds of poisons on you. As long as you can use your own antidotes to withstand my poison, you will have proven you're my senior in detoxification. Otherwise, you'll die. Creating antidotes in a day might sound like plenty of time, but in fact, there were countless types of poison, and each kind had its own properties. The poisons used by a master of poison like Douluo absolutely wouldn't be ordinary. Creating something capable of reducing the poisons he used in 1 day, such a task was monumental. Douluo assumed that Tang San would try to bargain with him, fight for more time, or perhaps try to stall. But Tang San's reply made him somewhat astonished, and even increased his confidence in Tang San. Fine, bring me to your medicinal garden, then don't disturb me for 1 day. Brushing off the dust from his clothes, Tang San easily agreed to Douluo's demands. Douluo swept his gaze up and down over him, then turned around and walked towards the cave entrance. Follow me. Leaving the cavern, Tang San discovered he was in a lush forest and that their current location was at the foot of a 500-meter tall hill in the forest. Since it was nighttime he was unable to see much of the scenery. Douluo advanced along the mountain path as if he was walking on level ground. While he appeared to be walking slowly, each step he took moved him more than 10 meters, and the distance between each step was also extremely uniform. The whole time he climbed the mountain he seemed perpendicular to the ground. Tang San hurriedly gathered his spirit power to follow behind Douluo. He of course didn't believe he would be able to escape out of the cave, escaping from a title Douluo, that was a jest. Very quickly Tang San, led by Douluo, reached the hilltop. Here, Tang San couldn't help but start with alarm from the terrain. In front of him was unexpectedly a conical mountain cavity. They stood at the edge of this cavity as dense steam rose from within, hot and extremely moist, as well as smelling distinctively of sulfur. There's a hot spring here, Tang San astonished couldn't help but say. Douluo shot him a glance. Kid, you know more than I expected. Tang San said, I'd never fail to recognize the smell of a hot spring. Your medicine garden is at the edge of a hot spring. This is a good location. Hot springs generally weren't suitable for nourishing plants because of the excessive mineral content in the water, but some special plants were different. They required precisely the minerals and heat of the hot spring. According to what Tang San knew, there were a lot of poisonous plants that were like this. Follow me. Douluo displayed his strength, directly leaping into the bottomless darkness from side of the mountain. Because of the thick mist and night, as well as the sharpness of the overhanging cliff, Douluo's silhouette disappeared into the watery mist in just the blink of an eye. Is he deliberately making things difficult for me? Pride flashed in Tang San's eyes. If you think something like this will hinder me, then think again. Purple light flashed from his back as 8 spider lances released once again. Tang San didn't jump off like Douluo, but rather relied on the lower 2 lances of 8 spider lances to stretch downwards and, with a cheng sound, thrust into the mountain wall. Immediately afterward, the 8 spider legs alternately used force, swiftly bringing Tang San down the mountain wall as if his shoes stepped on level ground. With the sharpness and spider leg properties of 8 spider lances, they could ignore the vast majority of terrain. Such a precipitous mountain wall might be able to hinder other people, but it caused no problems for 8 spider lances. As Douluo fell into the mountain he couldn't help but be pleased with himself. Kid, I won't pull you, I'll see how you get down. If you run away, then that only proves you're just a cowardly little junior. Of course, if Tang San truly jumped down, Douluo wouldn't let him be injured. With his strength, catching Tang San was a simple matter. Along with Tang San showing his cool head and strength, Douluo had already become more and more interested in this kid. From what he'd seen, Douluo thought he was more mature than ordinary youngsters, and still had a kind of special character, a planning strategist. After a long time without seeing Tang San jump down, Douluo didn't know why, but he felt somewhat disappointed. As he'd just started thinking this was just a cowardly child, he saw a silhouette quickly make its way along the mountain wall. With his eyesight he could naturally see the circumstances of that silhouette. That external spirit bone can even be used like this. Astonishment flashed through Douluo's eyes, but he didn't say anything, only looked at Tang San with the 8 spider lances on his back moving swiftly, in a moment arriving in front of him. With purple demon eye, Tang San's eyesight wasn't any worse than Douluo's at night. Tang San didn't look at Douluo, but rather gazed into the scene in the ravine. What made him astonished was that the hot spring in the ravine wasn't anything like he had imagined. While the hot spring wasn't large, it was split into 2 parts. In the oval pool, the waters of the hot spring was actually separately colored milky white and vermilion. Even more bizarre, even though they were in the same pool, they remained clearly separated, not encroaching on each other and constantly keeping to their own sides. That surging mist rose from the center of these 2 kinds of hot spring waters, unceasingly rising until it scattered at the top of the ravine. This is. As Tang San looked at this scene, he couldn't keep from trembling in excitement. He had never expected to see such a magnificent sight in this world. Even though he had never seen it before, he remembered a description of something similar. In Mysterious Heaven Treasure Records 100 Weapon Separation, besides hidden weapons, was a chapter specially dedicated to poison. Recorded inside were some extremely rare drugs and potent toxins, as well as heavenly treasure materials. But at the end of this chapter were the detailed accounts of 3 great treasure bowls. What is called treasures doesn't actually refer to gold or gems, but rather treasure bowls of medicine, 3 kinds of natural environments. Ordinary plants were basically unable to grow in these 3 great treasure bowl environments since they couldn't adapt to that special atmosphere, but certain valuable plants could nevertheless be cultured in these 3 great treasure bowls. Moreover, the time required for these rare plants to grow would be reduced tenfold. Simply put, if a lingji mushroom grew in any one of the 3 great treasure bowls for 10 years, it would have the effect of a 100-year lingji mushroom. The 3 great treasure bowls were rich in resources, pregnant with beauty and productive of talent, a place where the spiritual influence of heaven gathered. And wasn't this scene exactly identical to one of the 3 great treasure bowls described in the mysterious heavenly treasure record? Ice and fire yin-yang well. Is this actually an ice and fire yin-yang well? An ice and fire yin-yang well referred to just this kind of heaven-favored spring, 2 wells in one, yin and yang mutually restraining each other. 10 million years might not be enough to form such a precious place. In his life, being able to see one of the 3 great treasure bowls where the quintessence of heaven was condensed, how could Tang San not be excited? Now he finally understood how this old freak could still survive despite his own powerful poison and was even able to cultivate to the titled Douluo realm. This was inextricably linked to this ice and fire yin-yang well. The ice and fire yin-yang well wasn't just for growing things. At the same time, it had extremely unusual effects on the human body. If humans or maybe animals stayed at the side of the ice and fire yin-yang well, then in a very short time their bodies would be attacked by 2 kinds of extremely potent heavenly spiritual influences. If they didn't leave fast enough, their bodies were bound to burst and die. But to someone as toxic as Douluo, it could have enormous benefits. Extreme heat and extreme cold both had a restraining effect on poisonous substances. And a heavenly treasure location like this ice and fire yin-yang well had an even greater restraining effect on poison. Otherwise it would still be impossible for all kinds of rare plants to grow here simultaneously. With the suppression of the ice and fire yin-yang well, Douluo was able to all along keep the poison in his body from flaring up. The ice and fire yin-yang well's properties protected the plants in the surroundings and became a contributing factor to Douluo's survival. Ice and fire yin-yang well? What are you talking about? Douluo, somewhat suspicious, looked at Tang San. Tang San forcefully calmed his surging mind, doing his utmost not to let his joy out. It's nothing. I just didn't expect there would actually be such a good place here. If I originally only had a 30% chance of treating your poison, then with this ice and fire yin-yang well, my certainty has increased to 50%. What? Only 50%? Douluo Dalu's tone of voice immediately displayed an ill intent. Kid, are you trying to cheat me? Tang San coldly said, why would I need to cheat you? You've been steeped in excessive poison mist for so many years, having a 50% probability of a cure is already the maximum. Otherwise, even if I can't cure you, it will still be enough to blunt the pain. As for your granddaughter, I'm confident in my ability to treat her even without the help of this ice and fire yin-yang well. Douluo Dalu's complexion improved a bit at this. Pointing to the surroundings of the ice and fire yin-yang well, he said, all my medical plants grow here. Every kind of poison and tonic. You can use whatever you like, but if you dare wreck this place, I'll make you wish you were dead. I'll relax the time restrictions a bit. The day after tomorrow, if you can't pass my test, then it will be your last day. Of course, you can still try to run. But let me tell you that this is a well-known spirit beast forest. Apart from this mountain where spirit beasts don't dare enter because of my poison, the spirit beasts outside are of at least the 1,000-year level. If you run, the spirit beasts will tear you to pieces without me needing to dirty my hands. Finished speaking, Douluo Dalu leapt up, the tips of his toes touching the mountain wall, climbing out of the ravine like a giant bird. As his silhouette disappeared above, his voice once again echoed down, Kid, bear in mind, don't get close to that double hot spring. Even I can't endure the blazing heat and extreme cold there for long. If you touch it, you will die. Watching Douluo Dalu's silhouette gradually disappear in the watery mist, Tang San's lip gradually turned into an arc. What are you saying? I won't commit suicide again. How would I let myself easily turn into ash in the waters of the ice and fire yin-yang well? In fact, that might be the coldest and hottest place between heaven and earth. With Douluo Dalu gone, Tang San no longer had to restrain his excitement, quickly stepping over to the side of the ice and fire yin-yang well with fiery red spring water. Bizarrely, the surface of this tranquil hot spring didn't seem to give off any heat at all. Tang San of course wouldn't be deceived. The temperature of this red liquid could be compared to lava. If curiosity compelled him to reach down and touch it, then wherever it touched him would instantly burn away. Drawing a deep breath, Tang San only felt his heartbeat constantly speed up. This was the first time he had been so uncontainably excited in this life. Even in his last life it could only compare to when he made the Buddha Fury Tang Lotus. Focusing his eyes, purple demon eye activated. Sparkling and translucent purple light condensed in his eyes. Under the full effect of mysterious heaven skill, everything became exceptionally clear to his eyes. Even in the watery mist, the light from the moon and stars was enough for Tang San to be able to see everything around him clearly. The surroundings of the ice and fire yin-yang well were covered with all sorts of plants, in different poses and with different expressions. It seemed like a botanical paradise. And all the plants here were precious and uncommon. Just a glance left Tang San somewhat stunned. Not far away, close to the edge of the milky white side of the hot spring, was a small thing looking like a tiny larvae. Tang San cautiously crouched, observing it attentively, and was immediately shocked. This is snow silkworm. The top-quality winter larvae summer grass, snow silkworm. He recognized it at a glance, and his heartbeat seemed to speed up even more. Tang Sect was world-renowned for their poison, and their research into medicine was exceedingly thorough, the life's work of countless Tang Sect members. As an Outer Sect disciple, even though Tang San originally couldn't study the essence of the Inner Sect, his understanding of every kind of medicine was extremely profound since he would frequently temper the mechanical-type hidden weapons he made with poison. Whether it was poison or antidotes, he was incomparably proficient in both. Otherwise, how could he have recognized at a glance that poison Douluo Dalu was suffering the side effects of his own poison? The larvae grass was in itself a kind of top-quality drug ingredient. What was called winter larvae summer grass, larvae grass, for short, was actually a kind of parasitic fungus growing from larvae. This kind of larvae grass fungus would in the winter live in the larvae, chrysalis or imago of certain Lepidoptera class insects, alpine moths and wasps, infecting their bodies, absorbing nutrients, the mycelium gradually spreading through the body of the larvae stiffening and dying. Then in spring and summer, the fungal spores would germinate in the dead larvae, sprouting as a stick-like fruiting body from the larvae's head. Like this it earned the name larvae grass. And snow silkworm was another name for the best quality of larvae grass. This kind of larvae grass was ash white on the outside with ring marks. Its whole body had more than 8, the 4 middle ones most distinct. Snapping it to discern quality, the break surface should be quite smooth, white with a bit of yellow, the fruiting body slender, dark brown, almost coconut color, cylindrical, longer than the larvae. The topmost part swollen with spores, the outside yellow, the inside white, rounded and fat, not only bigger than common larvae grass, but also with much better efficacy. The snow silkworms in front of Tang San were twice the size of those he had seen in his previous life. This cluster had at least several jins worth. Even though snow silkworms were regarded as a heavenly treasure material, Tang San had never even heard of ones with such quality. Immediately afterward, Tang San also took note of another plant right next to the snow silkworm. This thing had a tan surface and yellow-red cross-section, single-leaf alternate phyllotaxy, the stalk slender and curved, the leaves ovate cordate, the tip coming to a point, from the leaves sprouting yellowish-green and purple-spotted little flowers, with winding stripes, extremely bizarre. This is a cinnabar lotus. It actually grows this big. Unlike the nourishing larvae grass, cinnabar lotus nature was inclined towards cold yin, its coldness very powerful. Subduing dry heat, it was also a kind of precious medical ingredient, with surprising effectiveness when treating fire-type poison. Whether it was snow silkworm or cinnabar lotus, both were rare and precious things. Ordinarily, if he'd seen these two kinds of medicinal herbs, Tang San might have immediately been interested. But right now he was too busy carefully looking around, because his gaze had very quickly been drawn in the direction of a faint fragrance. That was a light pink large flower, leafless, its stem 3 chi long, its flower enormous, more than a chi in diameter, each petal appearing as translucent and sparkling as crystal. The light pink flower lightly swayed along with the steam, growing by the shore where the red and white spring water met. Right now Tang San was 10 meters away, but he could still catch that delicate fragrance. The stamen was light purple, as if a purple diamond was embedded there. Even though the fragrance reached far, it wasn't heavy. A faint sweet scent like a maiden's touch. As Tang San saw this pink great flower he couldn't help but stare listlessly. Because of the distance he hadn't immediately recognized just what this kind of flower actually was. Subconsciously taking a few steps he arrived at its side, lightly sniffing. The fragrance was still sweet, without growing heavy as he came closer, still the kind of faintly sweet hint, seeping deeply into the heart. What was this thing that could ease the unwellness Tang San had started to feel from being next to the ice and fire yin-yang well? Feeling somewhat baffled, Tang San vaguely felt he had an impression of this kind of flower somewhere in his mind, but for the moment he couldn't recall it. The one thing he could be certain of was that this flower wasn't a heavenly treasure material, it was a genuine immortal treasure. Tang San subconsciously turned around, thinking to go have a look at some other medicinal ingredients, but just as he turned he suddenly saw a bizarre scene. The surroundings were originally completely dark, but at this moment it was bathed in pink. This pink color reached about 10 meters in diameter. The light was very mild, but with the acute eyesight of purple demon eye, Tang San immediately determined that his eyes weren't playing tricks. Turning back around he discovered that the source of this faint light was the heart of the big flower. The blocks in his mind immediately connected, and in a flash of divine insight, Tang San blurted out the name of this flower, Aromatic Silk Beauty Immortal Treasure. Indeed, it was an aromatic silk beauty immortal treasure. Tang San's heart had already begun to tremble. Snow silkworm and cinnabar lotuses were things he had still seen before, even if not at the same quality as here, they were still things he had encountered. But this leisurely swaying pink big flower was a rare treasure he had never seen before, a treasured object recounted in the last secret book of the mysterious heavenly treasure record. Tang San could almost be certain that this aromatic silk beauty immortal treasure was born from the ice and fire yin-yang well, rather than something the old freak had transplanted here. The aromatic silk beauty immortal treasure was the bane of all kinds of poisons, effective at neutralizing any poison. It wasn't detoxifying in itself, but it could subdue poison. The faint light Tang San saw right now was actually the range within which it could restrain poison, and this pink sheen couldn't be seen outside of the light. The aromatic silk beauty fragrance was understated and elegant, but within its range no poison would have any effect, the fragrance itself neutralizing all kinds of poison. Of course, if one was already poisoned when entering the range of this aroma, the aromatic silk beauty immortal treasure wouldn't have any effect. In other words, it was a medicinal herb with the best defense against poison, but didn't have any detoxifying effect. Tang San felt dizzy. Originally he had thought that this kind of immortal treasure was just legend. He hadn't expected he would actually be able to see it here. With this aromatic silk beauty immortal treasure here, the old freak Douluo's poison was nothing more than a joke. With a deep breath, Tang San swiftly circled the ice and fire yin-yang well. With just a rough survey, he could already see countless treasures. There was even treasures like 9-tier dragon zoysia. Tang San could see at least 7 or 8 kinds of immortal treasure medicinal herbs, and top-grade medicinal ingredients were too many to be counted. Among the medicinal herbs here, even though poisons accounted for more than half, there was still a lot of beneficial ones. Just like the 2 hot spring waters in the ice and fire yin-yang well, they grew here as equal rivals. After looking it all over once, Tang San's heart had already calmed down. If the person here had been someone who didn't know anything about medicinal herbs, perhaps they would already be stuffing their mouths with heavenly treasure materials. But Tang San was different. Having lived at Tang Sect, he was fully aware of the effects of heavenly treasure materials, and at the same time he still knew how terrifying they could be. If used inappropriately, even an immortal treasure would become inimical to humans. These heavenly treasure material grade medicinal herbs were extremely potent medicinally, but if too many were used there would be irreversible side effects. Thinking of this, Tang San couldn't help but secretly admire Douluo. He knew that while Douluo probably didn't know as much as he did, he should still know a lot about the beneficial effects of these medicinal herbs, but he could still keep himself from using them. It was clear he had still studied the herbs. Right now Tang San sat cross-legged on the ground, silently reviewing the accounts in the secret books of the mysterious heaven treasure record. Since so many years had passed without using them, his memories had become somewhat fuzzy. He had to first earnestly recall them, otherwise if he made the slightest mistake with medicinal properties, he would die without a corpse. The sky gradually brightened. As the sun rose on the distant horizon, Tang San also opened his eyes. Douluo's pretty words about giving Tang San one more night was actually just several hours. When he had brought Tang San here, it had already been past midnight. As the sun gradually appeared, the steam rising from the ice and fire yin-yang well couldn't hide from daylight and seemed like a misty dragon, spiraling up. At dawn, Tang San was naturally able to see everything more clearly. With a slight smile at the corners of his mouth, his hands swiped at 24 moonlit bridges at his waist, withdrawing several daggers glinting with cold light. Slowly facing the ice and fire yin-yang well, he walked over to a medicinal plant on the cold yin side of the spring. In these 2 hours of meditation, Tang San hadn't just thought about medicinal herb information, at the same time he had considered how to deal with this situation using his current abilities. After all, Tang San couldn't be certain how trustworthy that Douluo actually was. Therefore, regardless of when, he had to leave himself a way out. Along with recalling the efficacy of medicinal herbs, By now he had secretly also decided on a plan. Swiftly, Tang San stopped in front of a white medicinal herb. Tang San was right now urging the mysterious heaven skill within his body with his full strength, a layer of white mist appearing on the surface of his skin. After breaking through the penetrating meridian, the nature of his mysterious heaven skill had changed somewhat. Not only did his spirit power increase, at the same time it became more pure. Despite the protection of the mysterious heaven skill, right now Tang San was still constantly shuddering, as he endured the shock of the freezing cold air. That white plant was topped by a large white flower, octagonal, the stamen in its center twinkling like ice crystals, without releasing any fragrance. But it stood right at the center of the cold yin side of the spring. Not daring to hesitate, Tang San quickly swung the dagger in his hand, simultaneously dodging backwards, in an eye blink appearing 10 meters away. Where the dagger had cut, the octagonal white big flower fell in response, dropping among the medicinal herbs. Instantly, cold air flowed out, covering the surrounding plants in a layer of frost. Even though this kind of herb was also an immortal treasure, it wasn't at all beneficial. On the contrary, it was a rare poison. Tang San believed that even a power like poison Douluo Dalu wouldn't dare stay next to it for long. It was called octagonal mysterious ice grass, a strangely cold flower. It could freeze a person's heart to the core. Right now the cold air within 10 meters of this grass was dangerous. For a while its cold poison would attack the heart with nothing to restrain it. Let alone eating, just standing at its side would lead to misfortune. In order to pick it, you had to use copper tools. After Tang San cut down the octagonal mysterious ice grass, he didn't stay at its side and he didn't pick it up. Rather he swiftly ran to the other side of the ice and fire yin-yang well, to the center position of the hot yang side of the spring. This time his target was something like a white cabbage, but the whole plant was fiery red. Hesitating a moment, Tang San still stood 10 meters away from it and raised both hands. Along with mysterious heaven skill condensing, his palms gradually became a pure white jade color, activating mysterious jade hand. To let him move even faster, Tang San extended the external spirit bone 8 spider lances from his back. The 3-meter-long 8 spider lances in practically just 1 or 2 steps already brought him to the side of that fiery red plant. 8 spider lances lowering Tang San so he could reach it. He swiftly used both hands to excavate that fiery red herb from the ground with the roots. As soon as he completed this seemingly simple motion, 8 spider lances swiftly moved once again, bringing Tang San more than 10 meters away. Tang San couldn't help but smile wryly as he looked at his palms. Right now the flesh of his palms and fingers was lacerated, the jade color fading. Mysterious jade hand. The mysterious jade hand that couldn't even be cut by knives had been scalded this badly just from unearthing a plant. Something like this would practically have been unimaginable at the Tang Sect in his previous life. In contrast with that extremely cold octagonal mysterious ice grass before, this time Tang San picked an extremely poisonous immortal treasure with first-rate fire poison, Inferno Delicate Apricot. This thing only grew near intense heat. It could even exist in lava. Its effect was just the opposite of the octagonal mysterious ice grass. Blue-purple light rushed out around Tang San. Under his control, 2 strands of blue-silver grass simultaneously shot out, targeting just those 2 extremely poisonous immortal treasures. A treasure bowl is a treasure that can create unlimited riches, the Chinese equivalent of the Greek horn of plenty or Sampo from the Finnish Kalevala epic.